Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and your pharaoh of physical media. That's right, Robert Meyer Burnett, and this is a post-Christmas blowout show celebrating the best releases of 2022 on physical media. And listen, let me just tell you, we are the final arbiters of what is good and bad on this show, as you all know. But we're not the only ones out there. We have a very, very special guest with us. One of my favorite physical media YouTubers, a man who he has impeccable taste, and you cannot impugn anything that he says about physical media. He's got great taste and what he chooses to show, and I love his new setup. Give it up for Jeff at Films at Home, and of course, hey, Dieter Bastian, all the way from Saarbrücken, Deutschland, my co-host, my compatriot, my fellow traveler. Dieter, welcome. I hope you both had a fine Christmas. And Jeff, honored to have you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. I had a very good Christmas once the power came back on, but all good. We spent it with family, so that was fun.
So that bomb cyclone hit you hard?
It at least hit my neighborhood hard. It took down one tree and 30 people lost power, and I was one of the lucky 30. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Dieter, the Germans never lose power, do they? Even when the Russians cut you off.
We actually live in a little bit of a more stable climate, I would say. And I say, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Dieter here I am, rock you like a hurricane, and welcome to the B&B Motel for Let's Get Physical Media, where the presidential suite is taken today by Jeff, because my manager said you have to make a room ready. So Jeff got the room with 2 windows, but for us home theater enthusiasts, it's always bad, so he has to black out 2 windows instead of 1. Okay.
Well, our wacky German, welcome. So I got to ask you both. We'll just jump right into it before we talk about the best of the year. I want to ask you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Why still collect physical media? I mean, with all the streaming choices and everybody, I get this question all the time. John Campia wantonly makes fun of me whenever I bring up physical media on our own show. He doesn't understand why. Of course, he still has motion smoothing on his very nice projector, so we won't get into that. But why do it? Why do we still collect? Why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a lot of things. If I'm investing as much money as I've invested into a home theater, there's the quality aspect, obviously, for, you can't get the same quality you can on a streaming service that you get on a disc. So it's sort of like, I've made the analogy, like why buy a Ferrari and then put, cheap tires on it? Like, if you're going to invest the money, get the right tires, get the performance tires, spend the money. So that's a big part of it. I mean, there's just a ownership too. The more these digital platforms expand, I mean, I'd be terrified right now if I was sitting there with 2,000 movies in my Vudu account, because all it takes is for them to decide that they don't want to operate anymore, and they're gone.
And we've seen that happen to previous systems.
Right. So I don't trust any of those systems. If it's not on my shelf, I don't own it. It's just not. I don't have any rights to it, and it can be gone literally with the click of a button. So that's a big part. And then for me, there's just like there's a nostalgia aspect of I grew up in the 90s, so video stores were still very much a thing, and I spent a lot of childhood there, and just kind of replicating that experience and just having that physical disc. There's something for me, just going to the shelf, pulling something off, browsing, deciding when I'm going to watch it. It feels a little more invested than clicking through a streaming service, which can feel sort of disposable at times. So that those are the big three for me that I like to talk about.
Dieter, what about you? I mean, you are the resident trash panda here, and half the stuff you buy probably isn't worth preserving. But why do you still collect? I mean, no disparaging comment other than the fact that I don't understand your taste at all. Maybe it's something in the water over there in Saarbrücken. But come on, man.
We all know that was the reason you brought me on, Rob, because it legitimizes your purchases, Look at what these douche is buying, But it's probably become a habit over the years. And even if the streaming services are now the strong force, we won't get rid of that habit of having the movie to ourselves. Like Jeff said, if it would be gone, like you said, Rob, you were asked, have you a Danny Kaye movie? And what did you have to say, Rob?
Oh, you had to bring it up. You had to bring it up.
Of course. What did you have to say? No, you don't have one.
I just wanted you to know I did provide, though. I was able to show White Christmas. We rocked it for our Christmas movie. So I didn't let Murray down. Danny Kaye has joined the collection. White Christmas and The Court Jester. So somewhere, hopefully, Mary Forrest is smiling at me. But yes, but you're right. And what I would like to say is, here's my fear about where we're going culturally. I mean, obviously, when I call you a trash panda, I say that with love. Jeff, I know you like science fiction, action, horror. We like films. We like exploitation cinema, movies from all eras. And I worry that according to streaming analytics, obviously I've said many times that pop culture has maybe a shelf life of 20 years and then the interest in pop culture diminishes. I mean, everything has that long tail. There's always going to be people watching things and studying things. But the analytics for a streaming service, we have seen Warner Brothers and HBO Max decide shows like Westworld that they produced are too expensive to keep on their own system. And then Westworld, they'll probably, license it out. And luckily, you can buy Westworld on physical media. But if HBO isn't going to stream a show that they even produced, and they've taken a lot off, what is to, if we'll talk about Stone Cold, my beloved Stone Cold, who's going to stream that? And who's going to stream half the output of some of these great companies that are doing, whether it's Shout and Scream Factory, Criterion has their own channel, but who knows how long that's going to last, because how many people are actually interested in Criterion? I think they should be, but let's face it, most people are not cineasts. And I think one of the reasons, at least for me, for whatever time I have left on this planet, I don't ever want to be without Stone Cold on physical media. And I don't want someone to say, that movie's not worth anything. I'm like, are you kidding? Other than Action Jackson, it's Craig Baxley's masterpiece. Come on now. So, I mean, I just think that having the best, and we're living through a time where, obviously, Kino Lorber, we were talking about this, our beloved Kino Lorber has announced, I saw it on their Twitter feed, they're putting out Face Off, John Woo's Face Off. Finally, we're going to get that in 4K. Again, I'm happy they're doing it, but it's crazy to me that Face Off, that was a Paramount release, and Kino has been they put out Indecent Proposal, which was a big hit for Paramount, and they're licensing those movies out to smaller companies, which means how much do they care about their own legacy? MGM is being decimated. Rain Man's coming out from MVP. Rain Man, a Best Picture. Now, I don't mind as long as they get great transfers and we get the best version of the films. I'm happy to get them in 4K, but if your home studio doesn't care, and also look at Saturday Night Fever, which does not appear on my 10 best list for 4K releases.
Me neither.
I mean, why? It's been really interesting to see Paramount has put out, and we'll talk about them, but they recently put out something from the Miramax catalog that is absolutely stunning because they've acquired it. Incredible. They've done amazing work with 4Ks like Hunt for Red October. and then you get a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or you get a Saturday Night Fever. Now, a lot of people have to understand that the actual film that was used to shoot those movies is not the same. So maybe the source material, that's just what it looks like. But in this day and age, you never know. I mean, a movie like Saturday Night Fever, I thought deserved better. But anyway, enough about that. So now let me ask you another question. Jeff, how do you feel about the future of home entertainment? With the addition of disc drives and Xboxes and PlayStations, it might have extended the life of physical media for another 10 years, but I've noticed it's harder and harder to get players. There used to be a lot of low-end players. There aren't that many low-end players anymore. I'm currently running a $500 Panasonic player. I want to upgrade the players I really want. One's $1,500, one's $3,000. And one day I will go up to that level. But my Panasonic, the $500 Panasonic, is a great player. I love it, but it's hard. So it's becoming, even to get a player, it's a little niche. And with PlayStation not supporting Dolby Vision and things like that, how do you see the future of the format of discs in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to shrink. It will level off at some point. I mean, it's definitely a collector boutique niche market going forward. I mean, we're gone from the days. I saw an interview with Nick Swardson for whatever reason. I saw a clip, and he said that Grandma's Boy back in the day sold 100 million on DVD. We are not in those days anymore where a movie like that can sell 100 million and save itself on DVD. We're definitely in this home theater enthusiast collector market. So I think what you're going to see is you'll see more stuff that is catered towards that type of person. You'll see these collections like Columbia Classics or these Film Vault releases that they put out in the UK that are very heavily like catered to collectors and have all these extras, and the packaging is unique. And that's probably why you'll see more boutique labels releasing Paramount, MGM, even hopefully someday Disney, Fox titles like that. That's where it's going. So the player thing is definitely an issue though, because without players, what good are the discs? And yeah, the video game consoles, they can play the disc. They're not the best players because of they're lacking in features. But as long as that is there, I've noticed there's been an uptick recently, and I don't know if it's because of game consoles, but I've had more people asking me about the new format, almost like they've been introduced to it by a video game console. So
right.
I'm hopeful that maybe brings some more, but you need somebody else to step up. Like Sony needs to make a better high-end player. Panasonics are great, and then there's like those Reavon. I don't know if that's who you were mentioning with $1,500, but that's what I have. I mean, those are extraordinarily expensive. Those are not consumer products. Those are
no. I mean,
products.
yeah, they're one's a multi-region Panasonic player that was $1,500, and then you get into high-end audio, and I just watched a review of the new LG like 98 or 92 inch OLED, because I prefer to run. I mean, I'm just running now a 65-inch OLED, but a 4K OLED. But I'd like to get bigger. The problem is projectors don't have Dolby Vision. Right. They don't support, and the brightness levels on those on OLEDs are still my favorite. I mean, they're still amazing. But again, 3D technology. Dieter and I are both fans of 3D, and I'm still running an old 65-inch Panasonic Plasma, which I love, but it's 3D, and I can't get another modern 3D set. I wish I could. I wish OLED supported 3D. Newer OLEDs did, because the brightness levels would make home 3D amazing.
Yeah, so, and you can't even really get where are the 3D players now too? That's even harder to get than a 4K player in some instances. So yeah, that's the worry. If the hardware is not there, like when Samsung dropped out, that's a big hit, because you figure they're going to make the most consumer grade 4K player. That's everybody knows Samsung. Them dropping out was a big hit. LG, I don't think it's made a new player in a very long time. So it's concerning. If they need to have some sort of mid-range $200 to $300 player that doesn't skip and has all the features. And I don't know who's investing in that, but I figure as long as you can still play a vinyl record, there's going to be a way to play a 4K disc 20
Right.
years from now.
Although there's a lot more. I mean, the 4K discs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks are like computer programs.
Yeah.
So they work in a different. Whereas you have a stylus, and you drop it on that vinyl. I just worry. I mean, I look at it this way: as long as I can watch my discs till the end of my life, as morbid as that might seem, I have no problem with that. I'm like, okay, because no one's going to want my collection. I mean, what's really interesting is, I love going to used bookstores, and it's sad when I see books that I love that I own sitting on a shelf at a used bookstore that somebody's not, enjoying it. And I feel like there's going to be so many movie collections, like, a person's movie collection. I'm a snob. I used to love going to people's houses and seeing what movies they had, just like books. I judge people. I'm Judgy McJudgerson. If you don't have why do you have that? It's in my mind, but it's a joy that's completely gone away. People just stream now. I think that people, I mean, I don't date, but I think that if you on dating apps, you should have to put up a list of what you've been streaming and what your favorite movies are. It should be part of it.
Yeah, I don't need a date either, but that would be a big difference maker for me.
Yeah, totally. Because I met my girlfriend now, Elizabeth, because of our shared love of the French Jean-Pierre Jeunet's Amélie. And if we didn't, I'm like, okay, if she likes Amélie, because I'd never seen anyone on any dating site cite that particular movie. And for whatever reason, that movie kind of sums up my worldview in a way. So I'm like, okay. And we were 96% match on one of those sites, OkCupid. That's how we met 8 years ago. But yeah, so anyway, Dieter, what about you?
Certified fresh, Rob, 96%.
There you go. Certified fresh. Now, what do you think about the future, Dieter, of physical media?
Like Jeff said, it's probably becoming more of a niche market, but with the niche market, we get those types of great releases that we actually want, especially from those smaller companies, because considering my top 10, I think there are probably one or two from the big studios. Everything else is probably from the smaller ones.
Yeah,
just from the top of my head.
And I have to say, there's been some incredible stuff, like in Germany itself. I mean, the Germans have really done incredible media books. Obviously, I don't know if it's on any of our lists. I don't have it yet, but was it Turbine's Frighteners, the 6-disc Peter Jackson Frighteners set? I mean, who's doing that but the Germans? And what Turbine is releasing and all the, I mean, last year we got their Great American Werewolf box sets and all that, and we don't get that. And the Japanese box sets and the Koreans are killing it. And then when you can find your crazy like Terminator 2 set from Czechoslovakia, there's always some crazy niche thing to buy.
But still it was the same transfer, Rob. Still it's the same transfer.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the problem. I mean, when it comes right down to it, I think my philosophy in terms of, first and foremost, it must be the presentation of the film, both picture and sound. So I don't know what you guys, my criteria is I want the best version of the movie. I don't really care about the packaging, although packaging is very cool. The movie has to give me the best picture and sound. And I feel if it does, then you want the premium packaging to accentuate how important, like, if I'm not a big steelbook collector, although I've kind of become one, because if a movie comes out that I love, I want to show how much I love it by making sure the presentations that, like, you want to have it in a cool, like Hunt for Red October, I had to get the steelbook, and I like how they're starting to release catalog titles, at least at first, only in steelbooks. On my list is one of those, and I love that. Actually, more than one. So anyway, do you guys want to start? You want to start with I guess let Jeff start because he's our guest.
Yep. I don't know, Jeff. I talked with Jeff a little bit. I have, besides my 10 movies, I have 5 honorable mentions.
Oh, yeah, man. Bring it on, bro.
I don't know.
By the way, there's no strict rules here.
No.
I have my number 10 spot is multiple I can explain it. I have multiple.
Okay.
I didn't pick any honorable mentions because I got picky and I didn't want to.
Okay.
I didn't want to go past it.
So
I cut some
should
off
I just
late.
get my 5 honorable mentions out of the way before we start our top 10? Okay. Honorable mentions.
All right, here they come.
Get it. I think he did get it too because he was a little bit too late to the party. And considering the movie is a little bit dodgy, but Thriller didn't make the list from Vinegar Syndrome. Nevertheless, one of my favorite companies that I think I learned about Vinegar Syndrome considering doing the show. I never heard of them before.
It's a great release.
Since we showed all of those movies in the individual episodes, we don't dive into them extensively. So Thriller didn't make the list, but nevertheless, great release this year.
By the way, we judge you, by the way. You can't sit there and go, I love Thriller, A Cruel Picture.
You too, Rob. You too, Von Synapse, Dario Argento's Tenebrae. Great edition. Fortunately, not good enough for the top 10 in my book. The next one, mostly because I haven't seen those movies. And it was just nice to get all those 5 movies from Celine Sciamma in one.
Oh, nice.
Box
now,
set.
Who put that
and
out?
I have to look, Rob. It's from different companies. I think it was... No, it's not a company I knew, and it was a nice price to get all those 5 movies, but I haven't delved into it. Probably one of the normal problems for us collectors, have too much stuff and haven't watched all those things, so I don't know if these movies are my type, but nevertheless, I thought it was a nice package to get those 5 movies in those case. And he left us this year, the master of C movies, Albert Pyun. So it didn't make the cut, but I totally dug the Cyborg edition from Play-On just because of the different variations of the cover designs. And I know it's not a 4K, but it comes with 2 HD masters of the movie and the work print of the movie. So for Albert Pyun, didn't make the list, but quite nice. And the last one, we all hated the double dipping, Movie comes out, and then, of course, the 4K comes out. If there's enough time between those releases, it's okay. Let's say 5 years. After 5 years, we get the 4K. But if it's got released, and then we got the information 2 weeks later, a 4K will be coming out. This is, of course, not great for us. This took a year, but nevertheless, I was totally fine with the Blu-ray to even get the movie on Blu-ray. And then it got a 4K release. So, of course, Drive from 88 Films from the UK, the 4K, one of my favorite guilty pleasures, that it did get a 4K too. So it didn't make the top 10, but for me, honorable mention.
Now we should point out that that's not the Ryan Gosling Drive.
No, Rob, this is not the Ryan Gosling.
Okay,
this
just want the audience at home. I don't want you to be confused.
But easily as good. So this was my 5 honorable mentions.
All right, well, we'll skip around. We'll go back to Jeff. Jeff, if you have any honorable mentions, you're of course welcome to say them because there are no rules.
Yeah, I mean, I don't honorable mention. There's a lot of good discs this year, and I had my top 10 4K discs, and I was talking about this before. None of those actually made my top 10 overall release because I was thinking more like packaging, like
of course,
what went behind the release. Like, I'll give my reasoning, but I mean, there was a ton of good stuff. I don't have a Kino Lorber 4K disc in my list, but I mean, come on, the amount of stuff they put out this year, all of those could be honorable mentions. Some Like It Hot was great. That's one that always stands out to me. But in my 10th spot, what I did was I wanted to give a shout out. You mentioned Steelbooks. I wanted to give a shout out to Lionsgate for all of their Steelbooks this year. So these are this is the 10 spot, but this is also, I have multiple. So I've got the Highlander one here. And what I love is it's just this interactive, you pull the slip cover off.
That's so dope. Yeah.
This is the new Highlander. You know, they have the Limey, which is another good one.
I have that. It's incredible. By the way, getting that in 4K, Soderbergh's The Limey.
Amazing.
And
I know we don't love the transfer, but the Terminator 2 Steelbook, very cool. Very cool. And they've done they did Universal Soldier. I have Punisher here. So I gave them the 10th spot overall for just the uniqueness of the Steelbooks. They've added this, you know, acetate slip cover that nobody was really doing. And they've actually, it's not just there to protect it. It's part of the art and the packaging. So that's, you know, that's the sort of thing that like, this is going to keep physical media going. These are one of the few things you can actually still buy at a Best Buy in store because they're Best Buy exclusives and they're actually promoting them somewhat. So that was my 10 spot. I loved what they did this year with a lot of their movies.
And if you really like those films, when you get that care put in to the film. Now you brought up something I have to explain because this has been an ongoing crisis here on this show.
Okay.
My 4K European box sets of Highlander that I ordered were refunded. I had ordered them from Amazon as soon as Amazon UK, as soon as they were made available. Yep. The Swiss shipping company Ascendia had said they had been shipped. The tracking numbers never worked. I kept getting notices that changed. Now, normally I have to say Amazon UK, Amazon Japan, Amazon Italy, Amazon France have always been very good to me, ordering all my discs. Don't know why. So it was two copies of Highlander, and it was also Louis Buñuel's The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. That was also in there, a 4K disc. Never got them. However, Amazon UK, without being prompted, refunded my money. And I'm like, bruh, I didn't want the money. I wanted the discs. So I didn't get the discs. I did bite the bullet, and I did order that Highlander box set from another retailer at secondary market prices. And I did reorder The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. And to add insult to injury, then I got a box from Amazon UK, which I'll show later, of new releases that made it to my house fine. I'm like, bruh, come on. You know someone still stole those Highlander discs. I'd like to believe it. Pulled a heist. Anyway, so there's an update. There's the Highlander update. So, Dieter, what is your number 10?
My number 10, since we were talking about Drive, let's put out the other Drive. You know, the second side one that came out this year with a lot of cool swag and a new transfer, of course. Just showing the outside, because we delved into the box sets in one of the episodes. Can't remember which one, but we showed it. So number 10 for me is this huge release from Second Sight for Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive. What is your number 10, Rob?
Well, since you've done that, I'm gonna change things up a bit, because I don't want to, you know, since you beat me to the punch there, my number 10 spot, like Jeff, I just want to give out a shout out to Second Sight in general, and the two titles that my ties are Drive, that you just showed, and The Witch. As you know, I love Second Sight. Last year they put out my favorite piece of physical media movie-wise ever, which was the Dawn of the Dead 4K box set that they put out. And Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. I finally could retire. I mean, I have more copies of Dawn of the Dead. It goes Dawn of the Dead, Star Wars, and probably To Live and Die in LA that I have more copies of. But this packaging, I mean, even that matte finish they use, if you like, I love Robert Eggers' The Witch. And Second Sight, I mean, they should now have to wipe off my slimy. But I love what they've done. So The Witch and Drive are at my number 10 spot. Now, once again, Second Sight, it's the transfers as well. The presentation of the film, the care that they take. Now, from what I understand, they have on deck The Hitcher. And George Feltenstein told me that he helped them find the negative for The Hitcher. And it was funny because when I talked to George, he didn't really realize what Second Sight does, because he deals with a lot of companies. When I explained that Second Sight they give good disc, and they spend a lot of time with these releases. So anything Second Sight does, I want to say they're doing Near Dark too. And Near Dark and The Hitcher, I think that would be amazing. So I think, it'd be great.
And they postpone stuff, Rob, if it's not ready.
Right. Right. And they do have George Romero's Martin coming up. They weren't able to get that director's cut. But so Second Sight, God bless you boys out there, boys and girls at Second Sight, because one of my favorite companies. And, they're a company you talked about, Boiler Room, by the way, Dieter, last week.
Boiling Point.
The Boiling Point. They announced that's going to be a TV series. That was announced this week in the trades that they're going to make a TV series of that. So if that's a Second Sight release, it's a one-shot movie that's set in a kitchen at a restaurant.
It's awesome. So will the series be one shot too, Rob? Every time?
I don't think so. It's multiple episodes, but I did think it was interesting that you brought it up, and then they announced this week.
Nice
Maybe the Second Sight release of that movie had something to do with it going to a series.
Nice. Okay.
So then, Jeff, over to you.
Yeah.
Number nine.
I do want to. Second Sight too has Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so I'm excited to see their version of that.
Oh yeah.
So there's been a few, and they also released Monster, which was very good this year.
Yeah.
Very cool box set. So number 9, I'm going out to Australia. We're going to Umbrella Entertainment. I loved this release. It's going to be hard because the release itself doesn't actually have the title on the front or the
that's
back.
pretty dope.
You've got Martyrs.
Wait, what?
Yep.
What?
This I've been chasing this movie for a long time. It's been so hard to get. And the reason I put it on here
is that still for sale? Do they sell out of that?
So this was a collector's edition. There were only 250 of these.
Oh, God damn it. I have to have that.
This comes with a booklet with a collection of interviews, and it has a poster. But they have a standard edition, too, that's still on their site. I just checked. It's like $25. And it's just super cool because this Umbrella Entertainment Group, they've been doing a ton of movies like this that haven't had good releases in the U.S. or in North America forever.
Is that in 4K or Blu-ray?
So this is just a Blu-ray, but
okay.
I appreciate it either way because they've done, I believe it was I don't know if it was a brand new transfer, but they've added a lot of special features. It looks good enough. I have no problem with the way it looks, and it's region free. So like they've been able to do that where they're giving access to movies to people in North America, and they actually make it very easy to order. I've ordered off their website. It's like super easy. I know you're talking about shipping issues. I haven't had an issue with them. Takes a while. It's a long trip. But that release is just this one in particular I loved, and it's a movie that deserved a release like that.
Yes, it did. Yes, it does. Of course, it's not exactly a movie that I can give to a lot of folks, but I do love it.
I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, for sure.
That is a great release. So Dieter, over to you. What is your number 9?
My number 9 is probably one release that is higher on Rob's list. I just assumed that. But for me, it's number 9. It is, of course, Star Trek the Motion Picture, the director's edition with the different versions of the movie. A lot of swag in it. So for me, this was a great release. 2, it's all the swag in it. And the UK came with the 5th discs.
Yeah.
In it. So it's probably on Rob's list a little bit higher. For me, it's number 9.
Well, you know what? I mean, I would say that, gosh, I mean, because it's no fun if somebody's already shown something. So I'll say, yeah, it is on my top 10. And it is also, I did get the UK version because it has that additional version of the movie. But, I will say something rather I guess, controversial. I mean, I've wanted to see this in high definition, and we got it in 4K. I saw it in the theater for the first time, and I think that everybody involved, Dave Fine, Mike Mendocino, and of course the great Darren Doctorman, did a terrific job, with what they had to work with. But I don't think it's quite the definitive release of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the director's edition, that I would have hoped. And I think there's a combination. Like I've never actually ripped a 4K disc. I've never wanted to do a fan edit, but I'm absolutely going to do a fan edit of Star Trek: The Motion Picture because now I have the only thing. Now I have the most of the pieces that I need to make my definitive version of the movie. But it is a spectacular release, and if nothing else, the sound on really, they were able to go back there. There's amazing stuff on the disc. There's deleted scenes we've never seen. The sound mix is very aggressive. It's a brand new Atmos mix. It sounds like you're listening to a modern movie. I sat in the theater. I was stunned seeing it. So that's definitely, I'll if it's near number 9, it's my number 9. It's definitely, I would have put it a little bit higher because I was so excited to get it. But since you showed it, I'll just dive into what my number 9 would have been. And now I have to figure out as I'm looking. So my number 9 is a disc that I honestly am surprised not many people are talking about because the transfer is stunning. The picture quality is stunning. But I guess I just thought people love this movie. It's from a very noted director. And my number, we'll call it I guess I'd be my number 8 or whatever, but I'll just call my number 9,
Make
whatever. Is Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers. This is the Steelbook. Of course, it's in one of my Steelbook covers that I put all the Steelbooks in. I love Paul Verhoeven. I've loved Paul Verhoeven all the way back to when I first saw his movie Soldier of Orange, of course, his Dutch films. I was introduced to his movies. I saw The Fourth Man in the theater. By the way, I would kill if somebody asked me, what is your top 5 titles that you do not have on HD? Paul Verhoeven's The Fourth Man is one of them. A precursor to Basic Instinct. It's fantastic. But look, I understand this movie's not for everybody. The satire and of it, where you see all these beautiful young people who are beautiful and young, and then all the older people are somehow maimed. Or this film still, I mean, I think it came out in 97. This movie has lost none of its power. The quality of this transfer, the picture and sound, again, and this is a Steelbook. They put it out in this radical, awesome art, which I don't, this weird pop art cover. I don't know where this art came from. This never had great key art anyway, so this is dope. I love this release, and I've watched this disc probably more times than I would care to admit. But a fantastic release, again, from Sony. They do incredible transfers, and I was surprised they put this out. And this went surprisingly unreported. No one's talked about this. I guess people don't love the movie as much as I do. But and Dina Meyer topless. What do you want? What can I say?
Perhaps, Rob, it did get a 4K release already earlier. Steelbook came later. Perhaps that's why it went a little bit under the radar. Perhaps.
It could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved it because I didn't get the earlier release because I heard they were putting out a Steelbook. But the transfer is spectacular.
I remember, Rob, even in the DVD days, Starship Troopers was always a go-to disc.
It was. I mean, Laserdisc as well. It was really great.
Yeah.
So Jeff, I guess this would be number 8 for you.
Number 8. Yeah. So I'm going with the Vinegar Syndrome disc, and I think you might notice it. I guess a lot of my stuff is, I'm a horror movie guy first and foremost. So that's where I dive in. So I just got this during their last sale, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Great release.
Packaging is great. You got this nice slip box. You got amazing artwork all around. It's a slip cover. Then you got a case on the inside. You get a slip cover, a slip box, all this great stuff. But one of the really cool things, as a technical guy who reviews this stuff, this is there was a good release of this from Scream Factory a few years back on Blu-ray. They had a 2K scan from an interpositive. Vinegar Syndrome got the original negative and went back and scanned in 4K with HDR. So it is as good as that one was from Shout Factory. This takes the next step. I mean, I don't know how it could look any better with this packaging and the slip boxes, the way it looks. Just an excellent release, and of course packed with special features as Vinegar Syndrome tends to do. So I loved that movie, and that's why I'm very excited for what Second Sight does with the original, because hopefully they can put something out that stands up to the version of number 2 that Vinegar Syndrome did.
Well, I think we have to also give a shout out. I mean, we're huge fans of Vinegar Syndrome on this show.
Oh, yeah.
You know, even their affiliate groups, they put out a film. It's not on my list, but they put out Bobby Roth's Heartbreakers with Nick Mancuso and Peter Coyote, which is a movie I loved from the 80s. You know, male bonding. Now it's probably considered toxic in males, so nobody would watch it, but it's a great film. And I love that they put it out. But Vinegar Syndrome, of course, put out My Beloved Liquid Sky. They put out an Australian horror movie called Body Melt that I can't get enough of, that Elizabeth never wanted to see me again after I showed it to her. But, hey, I was able to get their remaster, which is fantastic. So shout out to Vinegar Syndrome. By the way, it's not on my list, but I got to give them, and it's sold out. They put out Roadhouse, an incredible release of Roadhouse. It was not a film. I've never loved that movie, but that release they put out is fantastic. And so shout out to Vinegar Syndrome, one of the great, again, boutique companies, right up there with between what Synapse is doing and what Blue Underground's doing and what Second Sight and Shout Factory, and it's Severin. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
But yes, I should Amityville Horror from Vinegar Syndrome made my top 10 4K list, because that transfer is stunning, and I just bought Mad Men from them too, which I haven't watched Mad Men, so I'm excited to see that too. Great year for them though, you're right.
Yeah, really good year. All right, Dieter, what do you got for us?
Since we done one of the big studios, Paramount, with the Star Trek stuff, I tried in the top 10 to reflect almost every studio that I could imagine, and Arrow has to be on that list too. And I picked out the Wild Things 4K release, which came with the separate steelbook with the different cover artwork, nice booklet into it. So for me, this was one that I said, come on, Arrow has to be featured in the top 10 at some point. So I picked out Wild Things. I could have probably chosen Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves 2, but I haven't watched that one. But I haven't seen
Wild Things is better.
Wild Things.
I mean,
okay, nice, Rob. Okay,
you know, again, a shout out, a company like Arrow. They have always done fantastic work. I mean, I've got their old school releases when they used to have the clear cellophane covers and the slip cases. I mean, back from 10 years ago, and they had put out original releases of like City of the Living Dead and Dario Argento movies, and have those, and they came with posters back in the day. But Arrow's really stepped up their game, and to see, again, I don't understand why Warner Brothers' Prince of Thieves, which is a huge Warner Brothers title, why they put it out, but God bless them for doing so. I mean, just like their release of Waterworld, which was incredible, and they even had, a fan edit on there.
Wasn't it just the TV version?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was the TV, but it was tweaked. Okay. And so it's amazing what Arrow with their packaging, kind of along the lines, a lot of these boutique companies, they know their audience. Yeah. So they're giving us, which is what I really love from them. I guess that leaves me with my next title. Now
Rob, I want to start with my number 7 because you already mentioned it.
Okay. Please.
You do start it already, so I will be first on this one. Rob mentioned it. I didn't love that movie, but I do, Rob. Here is it. Roadhouse from Vinegar Syndrome, of course. Had to make the list, and I totally love what Vinegar Syndrome just does with always the great outside of it. So it didn't make Rob's list, but it did take mine. Roadhouse, number 7. Okay.
I don't even know if I'm a number 7 or 8. I don't even know.
7, Rob. We are at
Now this is it's funny because I bought the American release of this and I figured I don't need the European release of this. But then I talked to George Feltenstein about it and about how Warner Brothers Europe is sort of, in terms of home video, is different than Warner Brothers US. Because I wondered about the Citizen Kane disc that came out. You know, I'm like, and I love my box set from Europe. I had to get this, and it's also a new release, so it's a disc I got this week. Casablanca, one of the great movies of all time. This is the European box set, which of course comes with a steelbook, which is dope, and I love it. And then of course I won't open it all because it's got, every time you get by, Casablanca has come out with all kinds of swag. But then again, you know what? This is the last Casablanca I'm ever going to buy. I've owned this movie on VHS, on Laserdisc, on DVD, on Blu-ray, and now I have it on 4K, and I never have to buy it again. This is the definitive Casablanca for me. Now, what Warner Brothers did is, again, maybe people are like, well, Rob, that's a black and white movie from the early 40s. What is it? It looks so good, but what they did on this release for the first time, well, for the first time in like 20 years, using modern technology, they cleaned up the audio. And it is never, I mean, it is so crisp. It sounds so good. This release of Casablanca is, for me, again, definitive. It is a definitive release of this film. It looks fantastic. I mean, yeah, of course, when the Spirit of St. Louis plane, it's not really that plane, lands in Casablanca at the beginning of the movie, it's a charming miniature. And it's never looked more miniature than it looks like it does on this version. But this version of the film, it's funny to me because when I put this on, every time I watch Casablanca, and the last time I saw this, we went and saw it at the Roy Rogers summer. They have a big blow-up screen and a big outdoor. You sit on the grass, and we took the dogs. And I watched this on the big screen. And I've seen this, I probably watched this movie 50 times in my life. Every time I watch this movie, about 20 minutes in, I think, God damn, this is a good movie. And so the fact that people say it's one of the greatest movies ever made is no surprise. This is a fantastic release. I'm glad I got this European box set because why not? So it's
US version. Well,
yes, the transfer is identical to the US version. This is just the box with the swag in it.
Okay.
And I feel like, I wasn't going to buy it. I wasn't going to buy the box set. I figured I got the American release. Who cares? But then it was so good, I'm like, okay. It's the thing. When you have a movie, you want to have that little extra, because somebody one day is going to come to my house and they're going to look through my collection and they're going to pull out that Casablanca and they're going to know that I have respect for this movie. Like,
exactly.
What is this box set? Why do you have this? Like, but now,
why do you have only the standard edition?
Now, Jeff has me obsessed about this Martyrs disc. I have to have it. I have to, because you know me and Martyrs. I love me some Martyrs. I think Martyrs is a masterpiece. Now I have to get that disc. It looks great. Because I only have the Dimension Extreme disc, but that was only a DVD. And then I have the. Is it a UK Blu-ray? I think I have a UK Blu-ray of it.
I think the UK Blu-ray was the first on the market.
Yeah, I have the UK Blu-ray. Because, if you want to have a nice, warm, fun holiday night at home and watch a great Blu-ray double feature that's in French, watch Martyrs. And then when you want to dig your eyeballs out with a spoon, watch the other mirth-filled, fun French film Inside. Watch that. And that's a movie that's set on Christmas Eve. That's a real Christmas movie. Watch Inside, and there's that that's a great double feature in French. And they've both been horribly remade in America. Horribly remade. Terrible.
And the trilogy with Frontiers, then.
Oh, there you go. There's a lot. There's High Tension you could end with. Yeah. But Jeff, over to you. What is your next pick?
Number.
Am I on 6? 6, 5.
I don't know where we are. Are we?
I've got 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. I didn't do 7 yet.
Jeff, I skipped you then. Maybe I don't even.
That's okay. I'll do 7. Then we're on 6, though. You guys are on 6. So I just got this. It was a gift, but I loved this set.
Oh man, that's such a good set.
30 years.
Explain what that is, man.
Yeah, so this set and the packaging is great. That it pops open and it's a great display piece. But what it is, it's a collection of 4K discs from the Sony Pictures Classics line. So Sony's been doing great stuff with 4K, and
Incredible.
honestly, a lot of these movies nobody would have ever guessed we're going to get a 4K release.
SLC Punk. Come on.
SLC Punk, the director, if you look at the Amazon reviews for this, the director of SLC Punk commented and said, I can't believe my movie made the cut, and that it got a 4K release. So nobody was expecting this, but it's great. It has 11 movies, I believe. You've got Orlando is one. These are all backwards, but Orlando, The Celluloid Closet, City of Lost Children, and most of these have not been released before. A couple of them did. SLC Punk, as you mentioned, Run Lola Run.
Oh, and how great is that? Come on.
Yep. Crouching Tiger, that's one that has been released on 4K, but you get a new version here. The Devil's Backbone, which is also great. You've got Volver. What do we got? Cinedoc New York, which is great. Still Alice, one of their more recent ones. And then Call Me By Your Name, which maybe now with Army Hammer becomes a horror movie. I don't know, but
he's just misunderstood.
But yeah, 11 discs. You got this awesome package. It all folds up. It looks great on your shelf. So that was my number 7 spot. I just got it for Christmas, so I have not dove into the transfers, but based on what I know about Sony, I have a good feeling that these will be pretty solid. They've done good work lately.
I have to say that my biggest Schnäppchen of the year was that box set. A Schnäppchen is a discounted disc, Jeff. It's a German word. It means you get a deal. For whatever reason, shopping at Amazon, picking up some final Christmas presents, that set has a retail price of $299 on it. They had it for $134. And I was like, click.
That's when I grabbed it. I saw it. It dropped to $130. I told everybody on my channel, hey, go get it. And I sent the link to my parents and I said, here's a late Christmas gift, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to buy it for $200, but for $130, I said, I can justify this. It's like $10 a disc. That's an easy sell.
Totally.
It took a little bit away the spotlight from the volume 3 set, I would say.
It did. Honestly, it's a better set.
It's a better set. The volume 3 set had, as much as I like those Sony sets, and I have to say, this is interesting. I since we're talking about it, I finally got around to watching. I love Jerry Maguire, and Jerry Maguire was one of the highlights. I think is that in set 1 of the Columbia sets. The two, maybe one.
I think you're right. I think
I believe it's set 1.
You know, I finally watched it, and it looks fine, but it doesn't. And I'm sure the way it was done, and I looked at it, and it really was not that much of an upgrade. I mean, it was great to have it in 4K. It sounds great, but that movie, and I know why they did it, the popularity of it, I'm happy to have it in 4K, but it was surprising to me how it wasn't as good as I'd hoped it was. And for a movie that's 25 years old, I thought it could have looked better. It's still, I'm happy to have it. I still love, like, the Social Network 4K is worth having. I mean, it's an incredible set. So, but kudos to Columbia for doing that.
Oh yeah, so, I mean, this set and those Columbia Classic sets. I mean, those Sony, I think, got it early. This is where the market's going. These collectible sets that are hardcore for hardcore film lovers, like that's where.
Now here's the question I have for you boys, and I was ranting. By the way, Dieter, I clipped out the segment from our last week's show and made a video of it. So I am very upset that next year, 2023. is the 100th anniversary of both Warner Brothers and Disney. And Warner Brothers obviously acquired the rights to certain MGM movies back in the 80s, like Gone with the Wind, like Wizard of Oz, like Ben-Hur, these very big, huge classic movies. But they didn't make them. Those movies are a huge part of the rich legacy of the MGM library. But for their 100th anniversary, Warner Brothers is rolling these movies out as if they're Warner Brothers films. Now, I understand they own them, But, you know, if you're a department store like Macy's or something, you don't claim ownership over the Gucci bag you sell. The Gucci bag is still Gucci, you know, and so I think it is disingenuous, and I think it's wrong, and it pisses me off that Warner Brothers is like, here's 100 years of the legacy of the studio, because they didn't make these movies, and now they have the distribution rights, but they didn't make them. And I know, I'll bet you, and again, I don't even know if Warner Brothers is doing this, but if they're going to do and follow Columbia's lead, and they start releasing box sets for their 100th anniversary, like what we just saw Sony Pictures Classics did and all that, if they're going to do that, I really hope they don't include MGM movies in those sets, because I think that they, you know, if you're going to do that, like in 1939, Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind came out. Those are MGM movies. They're not, now Warner Brothers owns them, and they've been releasing them on home video, but I would rather see another 1939 very famous Warner movie, Dark Victory. Not as sexy, not as well known as Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind, but still a great Warner Brothers movie starring Bette Davis, an Academy Award-winning film. Humphrey Bogart's in it. But I don't even think the yo-yos at Warner Brothers, they're not George Feltenstein, the team at Warner Archive, they can do no wrong. But the people that are in charge of whatever they're releasing, it's like, come on, guys, delve into your library and let's see the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers. I mean, we know we're getting a 4K release of The Exorcist, and by all accounts, it's incredible. Look, I would like, and by the way, if you're going to put out MGM titles, give me 2010, man. Give me that 4K. Yeah, so anyway, that's my rant is over.
But perhaps they could do a box set just with the MGM titles, you know?
Well, that's what they should do then. You know, if they want to do I would buy Warner Brothers Presents the MGM library for their 100th anniversary. That's something I would get behind. I think that's a great way to do it. If Warner Brothers came out and said, and there was a whole, maybe a documentary that, hell, I'll produce for free. I've got credibility with you people over at Warner Brothers. A documentary on how Warner Brothers acquired these titles. Do a definitive story about how Turner Entertainment, make a 20-minute documentary, interview the people that know, explain why Warner Brothers has these titles, and celebrate MGM's rich history. Because, you know, if you're a department store like Macy's and you sell a Gucci bag or a Yves Saint Laurent bag or whatever, you appreciate that brand. So let's hope Warner Brothers celebrates the MGM legacy as part of their 100th anniversary. That'd be good.
Considering 2010, that would probably more a movie for Kino Lorber.
Look, man, I just want my 4K at I want Robert Zemeckis' Contact. That's a Warner Brothers movie. Where's that? But I also want, in terms of, I want Brainstorm, Douglas Trumbull's Brainstorm from 83, and 2010 from 84. 2010, clearly it's not up to Kubrick's classic, but you know what? It's a great space adventure film, and it's really well done. And Helen Mirren, Roy Scheider, John Gielgud, not John Gielgud. Why am I saying John Gielgud? Ridiculous. But anyway, it's not a bad movie. John Gielgud's in Arthur. He's not in 2010. But anyway, where are we? Let me actually, since we've have a lot of people writing in. The first person who wrote it was Mr. 47, who said the 2011 Drive 4K set from Second Sight deserves an honorable mention if it's not on y'all's list. Well, Mr. 47 was on the lists.
Was on the list.
On the list. And also, I saw on one of Jeff's streams earlier, he did talk about The Witch from Second Sight. I don't know which stream that was, Jeff, that you were talking about The Witch, but you showed it as one of your top discs of the year.
You're right.
Yeah,
that's the only one that is on my list here. You're right. I have one disc from the top 10 that's on this list. That was the one.
Okay. Is that the one? Okay. I didn't mean to bogart your list.
Nope.
Terry all the way from Norway says, "Merry Christmas, gentlemen. Heading back north for a vacation tomorrow. Well, I will watch no physical media on my dad's tiny 1080p TV. Oh, the agony. Secular Monk says, "Hey guys, I wanted to thank you for your thought on my review copy question. I also wanted to get Jeff's take on this. Do review copies bias the reviewer on YouTube?" What do you think, Jeff? Since that's specifically addressed. If somebody sends you, and by the way, can I just say, I think people should send Jeff more review copies. He does a fine job on his channel supporting anybody. Obviously, the boutique labels can't. I don't think that Second Sight's going to be sending out any box sets anytime soon to reviewers. But hey, maybe they do. I wouldn't want it anyway because I believe in supporting a company like Second Sight with dollars. But Jeff, do you think if somebody sends you a review copy that biases your opinion in your review?
No, I mean it really doesn't. I mean, if you look at my channel, I mean, I'll go out and I'll tell Paramount that planes, trains, and automobiles suck, and I don't like. If I don't do that, then you lose all credibility. Paramount has a bunch of great discs. They have some that are stinkers. I get on Disney all the time about some of their stinkers. Like you have to call this stuff out because it should only improve their end product. I'm doing a disservice to everybody if I just say, oh, well, I got this for review, so I'm just going to say it's great. I mean, that's the conspiracy that you see. I get the comments all the time. Oh, you got it sent for review, so you're saying it's great. Like, a lot of these are great. A lot of them are near perfect these days, but there are stinkers, and I call them out. So no, I mean, it doesn't bias, and I still buy a lot of stuff. I don't think people realize how much I still buy, because that's the other thing. Everyone says, oh, well, you get review copies. It's like, no,
we don't.
Most of the stuff on this list I've bought actually. So I want to support the industry, but they don't bias people. I don't think so. Maybe if you're brand new and you're trying to impress somebody and you've just started a channel and you happen to get one. I mean, I could see you trying to give a good review, but like, I'm in this 5 years now. I've been doing this. Like, if it's bad, I'm going to tell you it's bad because I want them to make it right.
Well, that's it's funny. When I got the Blu-ray of Beverly Hills Cop, the original Blu-ray, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like and that's one of my favorite movies from the 80s. The Blu-ray was awful, but the 4K that came out is actually quite good. And I thought it was a tremendous upgrade. And the thing about Paramount was they used to be a company that they were very reliable, like in the Laserdisc era, in the DVD era. Paramount put out some really stellar releases. And when you do get something like Hunt for Red October, Paramount's done some really amazing stuff. But, and then they've done stuff lately where it's kind of up in the air. And I wonder, like, Fatal Attraction was not great. I thought it could have been better. But again, I wonder about what's the condition of the negative. I really do wish that the studios would actually, I mean, I don't know, there's no way to standardize this, but to go in and, there's another guy I was watching, I forget his name, but he was talking about Poltergeist as being one of his disappointing releases of the year, and the Poltergeist 4K. And I'm like, his big complaint was that it's not in Dolby Atmos. And the transfer of Poltergeist, that 4K disc of Poltergeist looks better than it's ever looked on home video.
Oh, yeah.
It looks fucking incredible. I don't think reviewers should be saying, well, we should have had a Dolby Atmos mix of Poltergeist. It's a 40-year-old film, and that would require a studio to go in. First of all, that wasn't the movie that we got. A Dolby Atmos mix would be a whole new version. Like when they go back and remix The Road Warrior, and look at how that turned out. It's fine if they're going to remix things, but that's not the way the film originally existed. And look, I think Poltergeist would be a great Dolby Atmos remix, but the director's passed away. Tobe Hooper is not there to sign off on that. So I think, look, what I want is the best version of that movie as it was initially released. And if we have Coppola and his team going back and restoring Godfather and restoring those other movies, great. But I don't think that we should ding a release because it doesn't have a Dolby Atmos mix.
No. I'm with you on that, especially these older movies. Honestly, I talk about this sometimes. I think sometimes they can use it as a bit of a gimmick too, because it's not what does Dolby Atmos mean for a movie that's 50 years old that wasn't mixed for anything? Like,
Right.
sometimes do they really go back and remix the whole thing, or do they just kind of package it in a Dolby Atmos package and just call it Atmos for the marketing? So I'm not worried about that. And honestly, think about who's out there buying this stuff. I know there's the high-end enthusiasts, and we are the 1% of all the people buying this stuff. Not a lot of people have Atmos systems, so you can't really knock a release for not having it. I mean, that's sort of still a luxury thing. If you've got the original 5.1 or whatever it is, or a stereo track, that's what it was originally mixed for. So I have no issue with that. Poltergeist looked great, so I would not have had an issue. I mean, it is what it is. I think it would have been maybe gimmicky, especially because they don't have the director to go back and remix it.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I want to wait. Okay, here's another one. This is actually a great question. Yorgi, 1 of 2. This is a really good question for all of us. Hi, Rob, Dieter, and Jeff. How much of an impact have the numbers of the megabytes per second on BD and 4K discs? How much of an impact does it have on the picture quality? Here are some differences. Zodiac, the U.S. Blu-ray release, is 31.30 megabytes per second, and the EU release is 14.18 megabytes per second. By the way, the biggest loss that I had this year was not getting the Zodiac Steelbook, the director's cut from Zavi. So if anyone has one they want to get rid of, I'm your man. Just saying. The list is very... Oh, and then he goes on to say, Yorgi says, the old MGM release of To Live and Die in L.A. comes with a higher number of megabytes per second than Arrow and Shouts. Wrath of Khan, the US 4K release, is 48.68 megabytes per second. The Australia release is 54.20 megabytes per second. The list is very big. Well, that's a really good question, but obviously you want more megabytes per second for the picture. It's less compressed. If possible. But remember, megabytes per second is fluctuating constantly. There's, it changes instantaneously depending on the information that's being given. So, these are probably average numbers. I can't imagine that the 4K of Star Trek II is different in Australia, because there's really only one transfer of a lot of these movies that are reused in multiple places. But a lot of the time, remember, there are different size discs. Like for Blu-ray, there are BD 25s and BD 50s. And so they are, it depends how the movie's compressed. What you want is the higher bit rate. You want megabytes per second. The more there is, that means the picture is less compressed. For instance, one of the things that I really hope Warner Brothers will eventually do, and again, this shows how niche the market is, I want the fucking Wachowski Speed Racer on not a BD 25. I want Speed Racer on a 4K disc with uncompressed sound. I'm one of those crazy motherfuckers that loves that movie, and somebody put it out in a proper format. Here you had the Matrix filmmakers. You dissed them with that Speed Racer release, one of the most misunderstood and unloved films of all time. And yeah, I'm gonna defend Jupiter Ascending right now, but don't hold me to it. But anyway, I love that. But yes, so the higher the megabytes, the better off you are. And usually you want discs that have more disc real estate. For instance, Warner Archives, if you look at their bit rates on their releases, they're usually much higher than the releases on normal Warner home video releases. So and that's something that George Feltenstein himself has made sure of. They're not going to release... one of the great remasters of this year was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, a 91-year-old movie. That transfer is absolutely stunning, and they gave it the highest bit rate they can. So, Yorgi, those are great questions. What do you guys think? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, Rob. But it always depends, considering the picture quality itself. And the older movies are just better with a higher bit rate, just to get the grain structure better out of the movie
Yes.
that it was filmed. But a newer release, when it was shot, let's say clean digital, you probably doesn't need that high bit rate. But it's always a big plus to have it. We want to have a better quality streaming, so the more we can get, the better.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I would just say if you're looking at a disc and one of them has 48 and one of them has 54, I wouldn't get too worried about it. You're real at that point. You're really splitting hairs. If it's 30 versus 90, okay, fair. But this one's 42 and this one's 45 point. It's like nobody can tell the difference. So you're splitting hairs. We obviously want it to be higher, but I wouldn't get too hung up on it as long as it's within a reasonable range. It's the same transfer. So, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, let's go on. I think I'm supposed to show something now. Where are we at? Dieter, are you
number 6.
We're at 6.
We are at number 6 now.
Okay, number 6, I'm going to give you a tie.
Yeah.
Tie at number 6. Number 6, from 2 different companies. Interestingly, Lionsgate and Paramount. But the work of one man, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. These 2 releases are, again, this Pulp Fiction, this is the Steelbook, by the way. And I did not like the Reservoir Dogs Steelbook. I don't know why. It was cool with the ear being cut off and all that, but I'm like, I thought it was, I like this packaging better. I don't know why. Call me crazy. But these 2 transfers, if you're a Quentin Tarantino fan, and I am, and I would dare say an argument could be made that Reservoir Dogs is one of his top films. Pulp Fiction, of course, is Pulp Fiction. Both of these transfers are absolutely stunning. They look incredible. The sound, the picture. Again, I know that Quentin Tarantino doesn't pay much attention. I wish he would do commentaries. He doesn't pay much attention to his video releases, but the debacle that I thought Inglourious Bastards was for that transfer, to see these come out with such loving care. And again, Pulp Fiction comes to us from Paramount. They did an amazing release. Hey, Paramount, can you please release The English Patient if you've got Miramax's library? I'd love to have it. It's the best picture. Come on, bruh. And then Lionsgate, they put out, I don't know how many versions of Reservoir Dogs I've owned. I've owned it on Laserdisc. I've owned it on DVD. I've owned it on Blu-ray. But this is the definitive version. It looks and sounds absolutely incredible. So that's, there you go. That's, those are tied. Nice. 2 great releases from Quentin. I love when, I love when companies delve into the filmographies, whether it's Synapse or somebody doing Dario Argento, like Suspiria or something. I do love seeing that we're getting all of a great director's work done with such loving fashion. So I guess, Jeff, it's over to you now.
Cool. Yeah, so for number 6, I went with one out of the UK, Eureka, their 4K set of the Police Story trilogy.
Ooh, nice.
These are really cool. So this set, Police Story, had a Criterion Blu-ray, which I believe was a 4K transfer. So it had been floating out there. Eureka took this to the next step, did all 3 of them in 4K. So in typical, Eureka fashion, you've got this, huge booklet with like 80 pages worth of stuff and essays. They are sort of the Criterion of the UK. We had talked about Elliot over at Boutique Blu-rays. I mean, this is his company. I know he loves Eureka. And then you've got the 3 releases with Jackie Chan, of course, and then Michelle Yeoh in the third one. She's had a big year, so that was also a reason I put this on the list. But the cool thing about this, loaded with special features, but it also has both cuts. So there's the 4K presentation of each of the Hong Kong theatrical cuts. But then there's a 1080p presentation of alternate export versions. There's a UHD presentation of the extended cut of Police Story 2. So it has every cut of these movies that you'd want. It's just packed with features and commentaries, and they're all pretty good. I think the first Police Story is still the best transfer of the 3, but they're solid, and it's got some very cool artwork all the way around. So loved this one from Eureka.
That's a great choice, great set, great films. And again, for those of us, who know, Criterion has put out Jackie Chan films over the years. In terms of Asian Hong Kong cinema, 101 films, 88 films, Eureka. We are living in a golden age of getting really great versions of these beloved
The Shaw
Chinese
Brothers,
films.
that's
Shaw. I got, that's another thing. I forgot to show that. I got the second one, but it's incredible that we're getting these things. And in terms of if you're fans of Asian cinema, there's never been a better time.
No.
So, Dieter.
Okay. We all know our snobby Bobby, okay? Who would go with things he's way cooler than all of us because he's a Near Dark fan, okay? But I, of course, had to put out Lost Boys just because of the different cover variations, because we had a big discussion, but it actually wasn't a discussion. We were really unison. The cover of the standard editions were just not particularly well done, considering Poltergeist and Lost Boys. And since I could give one of those editions away at our show, it has a little bit of a special place for me. So I put out the Lost Boys on number 6 in the little bit more extravagant special edition. Number 6, Lost Boys.
Well, that's
perhaps next year, Rob, Near Dark. Perhaps next year. We'll see.
Okay. Especially if Second Sight puts it out. I guess for me, it's funny because my 3, what is it? I've got how many? What are we on? 5?
5. Exactly, Rob. We on 5.
All right. I'm going to. This is I think that this next disc is. I think it's the best 4K release of the year in terms of picture and sound quality. There are 2 at the top. They're interchangeable, but in terms of quality, I have never heard a disc that sounds like this. I don't think I've ever heard a home theater presentation that has ever sounded like this ever, and that is Dune. Denis Villeneuve's Dune. This is thank you to the lovely Emma Bannon. This is the box set, of course, with not a steelbook, but it's a British release. This is the box that Mother Mohiam puts Paul Atreides' hand in. This disc is, to be honest, guys, I keep watching this disc. I've never heard the sound, like when you hear the score of this in Atmos, it sounds like they're in the room. The percussion is so crazy on this disc. And even whenever I put this in, I forget that they have the language, you hear what is it? Is it the language of the Fremen? It's not the Fremen, or maybe it is. But before the Warner Brothers logo hits, I always get startled.
Oh,
this is
the dream stuff.
The dream stuff. This is, in my mind, the single greatest picture and sound disc of the year. And there's only one other one that I would say is exact. It's just different, but I would say that this sound mix is more unique and interesting. But there are 2 discs of the year that are by far head and shoulders demo discs beyond, and I'm sure everybody can guess what the other one is because it's on my list too. But Dune, and I love it. The more I watch this movie, the more obsessive I get about it. Even though this ties into my number 1 release of the year, that I think this movie is actually a remake rather than a different adaptation. But we'll get to that in a minute anyway. So I guess it's so that's Dune for me. This could very well be the greatest single in terms of picture and quality, the best release of the year. But I'll leave that to other people to decide. So I guess, Jeff, it's back to you.
Oops, I was on mute there. All right, so this one, it's pretty mainstream, and You can walk by. My wife's gonna walk by real quick.
Tell her she looks great on camera. We love her.
Cameo appearance. But yeah, I went with the Universal Classics Monsters because I just love that. I saw the first volume. This is volume 2, and I figured, well, that's probably the last we'll see of those. They did the 4 big ones, and they won't do any more. And they kept diving back in. So you've got the Mummy, you've got Bride of Frankenstein, Phantom of the Opera, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. They all look fantastic,
incredible.
By far the best they've ever looked, the best they've ever sounded. They did a ton of work cleaning these up, and so I was excited to see that we even got a volume 2, because I sort of expected, like I said, they do the major ones and maybe we'd never see Bride or even the Mummy or Phantom of the Opera, and I'm excited to see if they keep going. But these are fantastic. Like the black and white, don't sleep on that for 4K. It is. What a game changer with the HDR. Just beautiful releases. And Universal, they really did, back when they did their 100th anniversary and they did a bunch of these transfers, they just did a great job restoring these.
I totally agree. It's a great release, great choice. Those box sets, again, Universal killing it with the Hitchcock's box sets and the Universal. I mean, they, again, another company, what they did with Jaws. The restoration of Jaws, they really know what to do with their releases. Really fantastic. Fantastic stuff. Dieter, I guess it's over to you, sir.
This one snuck into the top 10 today, because I went through my mess and I thought, wait, this came out this year. And I thought it's a little bit different to put an anime on the list, but I thought I put the edition of Belle.
Wow, where did you get that? I thought I had the cool box set. Clearly, I was wrong.
This was from Playon, the comedy that was formerly known as Koch, Koch films.
Oh, okay.
And it had a lot of cool swag in it. And it came, of course, with the 4K stuff. The movie, a lot of lenticular stuff in it, so a lot of extra stuff in it. The German one has the soundtrack of the movie in German as a CD in it. This was the lenticular.
That's pretty crazy. Wow, look at that, dude.
Of it, and it came with, of course, the 4K of the movie, the Blu-ray, and here we have the 2 soundtrack CDs. And the bonus one. So I thought a little bit of a different type that an anime should be perhaps featured too. And I stumbled across Belle and I thought, oh wait, I bought this this year. It came out this year. So Belle is my number 5.
A fine release. My number 5. You can't get more mainstream than my number. This is my number 5. This is my number 4. I guess my number 5. This is 4?
But I think you started with 5.
I think you've started, so we're on 4.
Yeah.
Oh, on 4. Okay. Well, all right. And you know what? This is kind of going to come as no surprise. If Dune is not your bag, then this movie is far and away the greatest transfer, the greatest audio-visual presentation, as it was in the theaters. And you can't lose with Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick, this is the Steelbook, one of the many releases of this film. I already had the Paramount Steelbook, so I just got this Steelbook rather than the double. I didn't get the swag, the double release or whatever. Yeah. Again, this movie is jaw-dropping in terms of its Dolby Atmos presentation and its sound. I mean, like, you can't. Since I set up our media room, I've been regaling people with different disc qualities, and some of them, by the way, don't ever sleep on your Blade Runner 4K. You want to blow people away, just show people the first 5 minutes, including the opening credits of Blade Runner, and then them flying around the city and Leon getting blasted, or Leon blasting Holden. But this, I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, I might give the edge to Dune only because it has a more interesting non-terrestrial sound mix. But this disc it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. And obviously, both Dune and Top Gun were made state-of-the-art equipment and everything, but it translates over. And anybody, even if you don't love this movie, and how can you not love this movie? I mean, it is what it is, but it's just so much fun to watch, and it's never been more fun to watch than at home. I've watched this movie I just put this movie on as comfort food. If I'm like not busy for 20 minutes, I'll just put this on just to watch it and marvel at the audio video quality. It's stunning, and this is what I want from my 4K presentations, so I can blow people away with my big clipped speakers, and I mean, it makes me want to get a second subwoofer, but it would destroy the room. It's like what are you gonna do? So there you go. That's my number 4. So Jeff, over to you.
Cool. Yeah. So number 4, I went with the Criterion, and I picked Wall-E for a couple of reasons. First off, that this, the transfer is essentially the same as the Disney one, and I reviewed them. I mean, it is the same, minus the Dolby Vision that they've added. But I liked this release for bigger reasons of maybe that this opens the door, if it sells well, for more collaboration between these two, whether it's Disney, Pixar, Fox, somebody picking up that catalog and doing a good job with it. And this is the packaging all around is excellent, and it's got all the features, a bunch of new stuff. It's got the short films, it's got documentaries on it, so it's a great release overall. But it was important to me to see like Criterion dive into the mainstream, and I know some Criterion fanboys hated that, and they hated the fact that there was a mainstream release. But Disney specifically, I know this was a collaboration. The director here, Andrew Stanton, had like a good relationship with them and really pushed for it. But if it sells well, I think it could mean more license, whether it's Criterion or them licensing out to somebody else. I think it's an important release because it's the first time Disney or Pixar has really opened themselves up like that. So it made the list sort of as how the potential of how important that release is, if it does well, I think could be huge.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, obviously Andrew Stanton himself, like you said, pushed for this. Disney, 20 years ago, I made special features for Disney, and they were at the top of their game. When the DVD format was first introduced, Disney was crushing it, and I worked on Snow White, I worked on Fantasia, I worked on a lot of big titles for them, and their home video division, John Bernstein and David Jessen and all the people over there, and even to a certain extent, the now former head of Disney was really, they did a fantastic job, and I've been incredibly disappointed with Disney of late. For instance, their Marvel releases. Yeah. I think completely a company that should be doing Lord of the Rings-esque releases in terms of their special features. They haven't been. The fact that I understand they're promoting Disney Plus. I get it. But to not have IMAX enhanced 4K discs, to have Atmos tracks that are wantonly compressed, they're not giving us the kind of things that we deserve, has been really frustrating, especially for people like, if anyone, like I have every Marvel movie, I've got every Steelbook. I didn't buy their big box set because they're always making more movies, so that one day will be the definitive. But the fact that they have actively tried to curtail their physical media releases, especially in the Marvel realm, is terrible.
Yeah.
And they've shortchanged their fans. And you know what? If I ever had a conversation with Kevin Feige, I would be like, dude, what are you doing? You've got a loyal fan base out there, and I understand that Disney Plus is the future. I understand that, but why don't you guys have 4 hours of the fact that Infinity War and Endgame don't have 10 hours of special features between the two of them is right. I don't understand that at all. I mean, with the Disney design department, their visual design department, they could be making definitive releases for all of these movies, and they're doing shit. Their special features are terrible. They should be putting their all into these releases, and they don't. And what this was, thank God Disney and Pixar allowed it, because Andrew Stanton, when you've directed, hey, Criterion, how about a John Carter release? What's up? But if Andrew Stanton's there, why not? But it's really great to see this. I mean, I know some people thought it was going to be the beginning of it's not. It was a one-off.
Yeah.
And Andrew Stanton won it, so God bless him, and God bless Criterion for doing it. And by the way, Criterion's been a little underrepresented on this list, but even you, Jeff, called out their Double Indemnity disc as one of the best releases of the year.
Yeah,
and they're having Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love coming out in 4K, amazing. So they've done, Criterion moving into the 4K arena. We got Raging Bull this year. Yep. We're getting all kinds of crazy stuff, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for us in 2023. So go Criterion. It was a great choice.
Thanks
on your part, Dieter.
Yeah,
over to you.
Since Rob's got at least his money back, but I, of course, put it in the list. The
God
Highlander.
Damn it.
Box set number 3. Yeah,
wow.
It has to be featured, Jeff. Come on. It has to be featured. With all the swag. I showed it already. So, for me, great release, and perhaps, hopefully, the final release of the movie from Studio Canal. The nice box set from the UK. Highlander, my number 3, considering favorite releases of this year. Number 3. Not number 4. Sorry, number 4. Number 4 was Highlander.
Yep.
Come on, Bobby.
You just had to do it, dude. You had to do it. You had to
be
like,
of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'll respond to that, I guess. Now here's I'm going to talk about a German movie. That's right, Saarbrücken boy. I'm going to talk about a film from Germany. This is a film I dearly, dearly love. This movie, and it was released as part of a box set in the UK, mostly Blu-rays. But they wisely spun this out and released it as a single steelbook, which I got. I just got it 2 days ago. Now here's the thing. This is why this release is so high up on my list, not just because it's one of my favorite movies, but because when this movie was made, it's both shot in color and black and white. And when they were doing it, in order to make a release print of this movie, they had to print it out ultimately on color film. So because you can't mix and match stocks. So all the black and white material that was shot by Henri Alecan, who is one of the greatest cinematographers who ever lived. He shot like Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast back in the 40s. He was 80 years old when he shot this movie. They brought him out of retirement. It's a Wim Wenders movie. But for the first time beginning in 2017. Oh, and so the final release of this movie was 6 generations away from the original negative. So even the Criterion release of this movie looks gauzy compared to this release. This movie was restored meticulously from the original negative, and it looks amazing. If you know it, a lot of people probably don't, but my number 3 release is Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire. Now, this is the steelbook, and it's a pretty simple steelbook, but I love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm convinced Neil Gaiman probably saw this movie while he was writing The Sandman. I love this film, and having the steelbook, it is part of a Wim Wenders box set that they have released that I haven't pulled the trigger on because I have so many other releases, but they did release the sequel to this movie, Far Away So Close, which was only available on DVD for English audiences because you couldn't get it outside of Germany in English. This disc is incredible. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's incredible. There is only one caveat that I would say to this film. If you're a fan of Wings of Desire, the subtitles are fantastic. However, there's a character in this movie, Peter Falk, who plays basically himself. In the subtitle track, even though he speaks English, his English is subtitled as well. He's not in the movie a lot, but it doesn't really hamper my enjoyment of the film, but I just thought that was an interesting choice that they made. So my number 3 release is Wings of Desire, and this transfer, I was blown away, and it does include the original track was just 2-channel stereo. So they included the 2-channel stereo mix, but they had remastered it in 5.1, and it's much better because there's lots of surround activity in this. So, not to belabor the point, Wings of Desire is my number 3, and I got it just 2 days ago. So right on Christmas Eve.
But there's only one subtitle track then, Rob.
Yes.
Would have preferred a second one. Okay.
Well, no, it's not. It's only the subtitle track's great. It's actually they re-subtitled it all, and because there's a cacophony of voices as the angels are, it's a much better subtitle track. It's just that when Peter Falk is speaking English, it's subtitled in English.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I guess that
just a little nitpick.
Yes, so that goes back to Jeff.
Yeah. And actually, I want to say that Wings of Desire is the only Criterion I've ever found at a Salvation Army. I found it for $2. So I thought that was a pretty good pickup at the time.
Well, let me tell you something. It is certainly not a movie for everyone.
No.
It is not
Somebody
a movie
definitely bought that and said, okay, off to the donation bank.
Yeah. It was remade as City of Angels with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan in America. But for me, I think it's one of the greatest fantasy films ever made. But again, I always tell people it's very European. And if you know how it was made, it was like the music, like with Wim Wenders is a big jazz fan. This movie was improvised. A lot of it was improvised. And I love the film so much but you have to be in the mood for it. It's certainly not for everyone.
Yeah.
So, but God, Salvation Army, well, I did a paper on this when I was at USC. I wrote a paper on this movie, and it happened to be playing. I got to go see it in the theater to write the paper on it. Half the theater walked out. And I wanted to get up and shake, go, don't you understand? This is a beautiful romantic film. It's one of the most romantic movies ever made. I didn't do that, but I regret it even now. But Jeff, back to you.
Yeah, so number 3, I've got my Arrow video representation on this list because I do think they deserved it. I took True Romance. I thought the presentation, it's got 4K restorations of both I want to say it's the theatrical, and director's cut, both from the negative. It's got, the poster in here. It's got the Arrow booklet. It's got the whole 9 yards you expect from Arrow. And it's another release that, for whatever reason, had been sort of hard to find in the North American market. And that is a shame because it's a really great movie. And it was like, why is this not widely available? So Arrow took it upon themselves, and it's a great 4K release. Really nice packaging all around, and again loaded with features and some nice swag. So had to give them a shout out somewhere on the list, and I thought this was my favorite of the year. So True Romance.
Also, I have to say that the Warner Brothers release of that movie that was really the only available Blu-ray, and like you said, it was done early on, was terrible. Yeah, the transfer was too dark. It wasn't great. That Arrow release is a revelation. Yeah. It's a really great 4K release. Great 4K release. Dieter?
Yeah. Since we are on the topic of great picture quality releases, I had to include this because this was always a little bit dodgy considering the Blu-ray, the DVD, and I never thought this movie could look as good as it did here from Second Sight.
Oh my God!
Dog Soldiers had to be on my list. All the cool swag, of course, from Second Sight as usual. And considering the transfer of this 16mm movie, never thought it could look this nice. And bought it over the years multiple times. It came out even in Germany as a 4K, but I didn't know what the master of that release was. So for me, number 3 is Dog Soldiers from Second Sight.
Well, Yeah, that's a great pick. I thought before we get into number 2 and 1, we would do some more super chats, things people have fired in. This is a good question. Good question is Hitchhiker 42 says, what film do you want on 4K in 2023? I need Aliens, which is a great pick. Again, though, the abyss of Disney owning the Fox library. I mean, James Cameron has said we're going to get the abyss. Did I say Aliens? Is the abyss in March, and hopefully we'll get both versions of it. Maybe they'll even remaster a few of the visual effects. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to get all of the Lightstorm films. We don't have True Lies in 4K. Right. We don't have Solaris in 4K. We don't have Strange Days in 4K. I'd love to see those, but Patton in 4K. But Aliens, what the hell? Now, to be fair, people are going to bitch and moan and complain about Aliens because it's a grainy movie. You know, but I would love to get it in 4K. I'd love to get a remastered version of it. I would ask you guys, I guess, Jeff, what are some of the movies? What are some of your Grail titles that you don't have yet?
Well, I'm a big Fincher fan. You brought up Zodiac earlier. I don't know why more David Fincher movies aren't available in 4K. I think maybe there's creative control there potentially that he wants to oversee. But
we're going to get 7.
Yeah, we're going to get 7. So I would love like Zodiac. I need Panic Room needs just a proper release anywhere in North America with HD Fight Club. So the Fincher catalog, the one I've been asking for a while, and I don't know who could do it, but I want Freaks from 1932, and I want it on 4K. I want somebody to go back and restore that.
One of us.
I just don't. Maybe they're just scared to release it and get some. I don't know what they're worried about and why it hasn't had a proper release, but it does. It's DVD and that's it. There's nothing past DVD anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's Todd Browning, who also directed, like Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Do we get canceled if we like Freaks? I mean, is that what a great, I mean,
that's what I think is holding it up, but I don't know why though, because how about, I don't know, representation, right? Like early I mean, it was way ahead of its time.
Yes. And there is a great comeuppance at the end. Freaks is obviously, if you're a horror aficionado, it's one of the great early horror films of all time. I mean, if you're a Universal horror fan,
that's why it's killing me.
Yeah, I mean, the old Dark House, Freaks, you know, these movies need to be released. That's a great title. I'd love to get that in 4K. And you know, when you see the care that Warner Archive brought to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde,
yeah,
I'd love to see that same level of care brought to Freaks. I don't know who owns Freaks. Is that Universal? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Dieter?
Who owns it?
Dieter?
For me, it's always tough to come from the top of my head with titles that I want 4K. I was surprised. Face Off, you brought it at the beginning of the show. Yes, that is a title that I want. From the top of my head, Rob, give me my Rennie Harlan stuff, Longest Goodnight in 4K. The Adventures of Port Fairlane in 4K. Cutthroat Island in 4K. Put out a little bit more Rennie Harlan stuff in 4K. The older ones.
I wouldn't mind getting his film Prison that got him the Nightmare on Elm Street. I like early Rennie Harlan.
Rob, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies themselves.
Yeah, in 4K. That's a good. Love to see those in 4K. I mean, and you'd think. I mean, I hope. Now that those are New Line films, and Warner Brothers obviously owns New Line now, and with the 100th anniversary, give us a definitive box set.
Yeah.
I know that there has been definitive Nightmare box sets, and Shout Factory did that great Friday the 13th box set that I have quite loved, but it would be great to see those films come out. And yeah, I mean, come on. Let's
And we need a Dream Child in the unrated version,
Yes. Well, I agree. Look, why isn't the original Scream out in the unrated version? That with that opening scene with Drew Barrymore being disemboweled more. I mean, it was only released on Laserdisc. And it's like, come on, man. I want that disemboweled
or the
Drew
Toshiba
Barrymore.
DVD that I have, Rob.
Look, I mean, I got to tell you, one of the great disappointments of this year for me was Nicholas Kazan's thriller Dream Lover that stars James Spader and Machen Mick. Once again, it was not released in its very sexy, unrated version because Machen Mick is smoking hot in that movie. And for whatever reason, again, I have my Laserdisc, but I might have to just burn it and throw it up into either the high seas or put it on YouTube because, my God, give me my director's cut of Dream Lover. It's so good. That movie's great anyway, but I think Aliens is great. Look, again, Kino Lorber, it's been a year since you announced it, and Tom Jr. Jackson, who's one of our moderators, will tell you, I Want to Live and Die in L.A. They say the master's done. We're just waiting for Billy Friedkin to watch it. I'm like, bro, if you've been looking at Exorcist for the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers, come on. I Want Some to Live and Die in L.A. love. Let's see that. But, I mean, what I would like to see more of, I really would like to see some, I know nowadays Roman Polanski is problematic, but I want Rosemary's Baby and I want Chinatown in 4K. I mean, I'd love to get Ninth Gate in 4K, but no one's going to do that. Maybe they will. But Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby are two of the finest films of their era, and I'd like to see them released in 4K. And Paramount will do a great job with them. The problem is, I mean, obviously, look, the Roman Polanski thing has now dragged on for 50 years, even he's been forgiven or whatever. Do you know that his last movie about the Dreyfus affair, you cannot get it anywhere outside of France? His last movie, and Polanski's one of my favorite directors. You can't get I have not seen his last movie because you can't get that movie anywhere. It's a historical epic. It's about an actual event. And I've looked for it. I've looked for it subtitled in English. You can't find it anywhere. Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby, and maybe because Criterion has Rosemary's Baby, please put out in 4K. I would love to get that in 4K. And I'd love to see. There's been a lot of 50s movies. We got War of the Worlds in 4K. We're getting that beautiful. I don't have it yet, but the Invaders from Mars, the 50s Invaders from Mars is coming out. That obviously Tobe Hooper remade. But look, I just want to see more of film history preserved, and we're getting great stuff. And like you said, the Fincher stuff desperately wants 7. And I hope I don't remember who's putting it out, but if anyone remembers the Criterion Laserdisc of 7, they had a whole featurette on the resilvering process and how they made that movie look. That movie requires Fincher to sit there and make sure it's perfect because he's a perfectionist. And like you said, Jeff, I'm a huge Fincher fan. I'd love Fight Club. Hell, I'd love Benjamin Button. He's such a meticulous filmmaker. Mank, Criterion, put that out even. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his. And, great stuff. So a great question, Hitchhiker 42. Michael Piatowski says, in Australia, it's so hard to get good 4K releases. I have to import 95% from America or the UK. It's funny, Michael, because like Jeff pointed out, we are fans of Australian companies Umbrella and Imprint. As a matter of fact, if we get to this, Dieter, showing what we got this week, I got a big box from Imprint this week. And but I know the problem is your market. It's how many, if an Australian company put out 4K discs, and by the way, Imprint putting out that beautiful steelbook of War of the Worlds, which they released before we got it here in America, and Umbrella doing those crazy, funny horror titles where they made them look like other classic movie poster things. Mm-hmm. Those were great too. I don't know, but the problem is your market. How many people are buying 4K? It really comes down to that. And the problem is there's not enough people in Australia to support a 4K marketplace. So you're going to have to, unfortunately, buy them. Yeah. Don't you guys? Would you agree?
Really, they're region free.
Well, that's to me, I mean, it was a necessity to buy a region free player that I've now got dedicated, even a 4K player. I do believe I think the Studio Canal 4K of Oliver Stone's The Doors is actually region locked. because it won't work. It's a 4K disc that didn't work for me on my Panasonic, and I had to play it on my Region Free player. That's the only 4K that I've come across.
Okay.
So, let's see. Andy Beglin's Stairwell Sessions says, do you think we will ever see a 4K release of Chinatown? One of my all-time favorite films, and that soundtrack is absolutely gorgeous. Love you guys. That soundtrack's by Jerry Goldsmith. Look, I think Chinatown is one of the great films of the 70s. I mean, it's Jack Nicholson. It's Faye Dunaway. I hope it comes out. But I have to tell you, there are factions now within the studios that are actively pushing against problematic films coming out on disc, as if, because they've fallen from favor or whatever, which I think is not, I don't like that at all. And Chinatown's an incredibly important film. I hope it does come out. What do you guys think? If a filmmaker is problematic or people in the movie are problematic, or do you think that hundreds of people work on movies? That's
what I was going to. I hate the fact that because a director or one actor is problematic, that the other 500 people who worked on the movie don't have access to that movie and don't get treated. It sucks to lose that. So I see, yes, okay, there's problems. He's problematic, but he's one person. There were many more people. We're going to put out 7 and no one's worried. Oh, Kevin Spacey's in 7. So should we not release it? It's no, because a ton of people worked on this great movie. How are you going to just bury that because one person did something? Yeah.
And also, what is so interesting to me is, what people do in their personal lives. What does that have to do with the movie? When you're watching a film, I can say that when I'm watching a movie, I'm not supporting an individual actor and their lifestyle choices or their, I'm supporting the film. Right. And the film is a collaboration of many, many, many different artisans coming together to tell a story. Right. And if an element of that is problematic, you're not supporting that actor necessarily directly, even though they might benefit from another sale of the film. The movie's that movie's sailed. And why get rid of history, and why get rid of, like you said, Jeff, those hundreds of other people?
Well, yeah, and even if the movie itself is problematic now, but nobody, the content, it's you can't bury that stuff either, because otherwise, how do you learn from it? How do you the fact that Gone with the Wind doesn't have a 4K release is surprising, but also I think there's people who are scared to do it because it's now problematic. But it's how do you learn from that? That's in the context of the time and what was going on, and that is how you learn and move forward and get better as a culture and as people. But if you bury it, then you're just you're doomed to repeat it. You can't bury history where you go back there. So those are important pieces of history and film history to watch and understand. So I don't like that idea at all.
No, I think censorship is wrong. And, what you do is you present these movies, but give it context, explain where it came from. I mean, what's so strange is that people want to believe, do you believe we didn't have Jim Crow laws in the South 60 years ago? Right. I mean, we're a bunch of racist fucks. And it's the more we can reiterate that message and say, okay, this is the way it is. I mean, Song of the South won 2 Academy Awards.
Right.
And when I was working back,
they'll never touch that now.
No, they won't. But what's really interesting, black audiences have loved that film. I saw that movie. That movie was theatrically released up until 1986. It was playing in theaters. They would re-release it. And we talked about, when I was working at Curdy Peller and on all the Disney stuff, we had talked about getting black creators like Oprah Winfrey or Quincy Jones or whatever to contextualize the movie and talk about what it meant. Mm-hmm. And people were interested in doing that. But no, I mean, 2 Academy Awards, and it's funny because Splash Mountain at Disneyland, they're getting rid of that because all of that is from Uncle Remus, Brer Rabbit. It all comes from Song of the South, and we have to get, it's just so weird. I mean, human beings are terrible, awful people. And we've been terrible and awful to one another for thousands of years. And I think by showing the progression of how things were changing and movies coming out, it helps. It can help as long as it's contextualized. And that's one of the things I can't stand about the modern age is there's no context. People let's just get rid of all horror movies because there's violence against people in them.
Right. And nobody asks, well, I guess it sounds like you tried to, but nobody asks the groups that are potentially affected by the movie the most. It's some white guy at the top of Disney who's like, I don't think we should do that anymore. Well, why don't we ask the affected groups how they feel and let them put it into context? And like, sometimes it's just like you're doing it just to get an article out about, hey, we're so great and we're going to not do this thing. But you're burying history. And I mean, look, we're not getting any better. Like it's not like it's drastically improved. If anything, it's gotten worse over the last few years. So
yeah, it really has. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
That you need that context or you're doomed to repeat it. And we're very close to repeating a lot of things. So.
Yes, we are. And look, again, what is the power of cinema? The power of cinema is to enlighten. I mean, I've said this many times, but what other form of mass entertainment can gather a group of people together of all walks of life, all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, religions, beliefs, sexualities, whatever? Nobody cares. We all get in a room together, all of us. Nobody sits there and goes, I'm not going to get into that room. No, everybody gets in that room together. We all sit next to each other. We're not paying attention who we're sitting next to, even though we might be diametrically opposed to them politically or whatever. You walk into a movie theater to see Avatar: The Way of Water or Top Gun: Maverick. You sit down with a smile on your face, and all of us, when the lights go down, we focus on one story. And that's there's an incredible power in that people forget about. And anyway, back to the 4K release of Chinatown. Thank you for that question, Andy. It was a good question. Yorgi says that my number one 4K release is Dune from 2021 from Hong Kong Manta Lab exclusive one-click box. Wow. Number 2 is Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that was actually last year. Yeah. Number 3 is the Mother Box, the Amazonian, the Human, and Atlantean from Manta Labs. I am not familiar with the Hong Kong Manta Lab exclusive one-click boxes, but that sounds right up my alley. Are you guys?
Me neither, Rob.
Yeah, I've seen the stuff. It's really high-end, and they sell out quick. They're the type of thing that you have to do like group buys for, I think.
Right.
They're very expensive, super high quality if you love the movie. But yeah, they're a very unique. There's like a group that will go after each one of those and do these group buys and forums and stuff. I've heard of them. I don't own any because they've been sort of hard to get.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Yeah, me neither. I don't own any either. But that sounds great. David C. says, it was a great year for discs when the Second Sight Drive is number 10. Thanks. Thanks for a great year of coverage and fun, gents, and I'm looking forward to the new year. My favorite this year is the Second Sight Boiling Point and Tangerine box sets.
Nice.
Those are great. Tangerine, a movie shot on iPhones, so that was good to have that. Fry Minis says, Rob, that Titan A model tweet has me hyped. The Titan A is the hero starship from the upcoming Picard Season 3. As you all know, I cannot stand modern Star Trek. Even though it's my favorite franchise, I hate it all. However, that said, Star Trek Prodigy got a lot to like and admire. And Star Trek Picard Season 3 is the next generation movie we always wanted but never got over 10 hours. I highly recommend Star Trek Picard Season 3. By the way, I don't understand why modern Star Trek's not coming out in 4K. That's really lame. But that just is another indicator of how lame modern Star Trek is. Hopefully, Picard Season 3, you should all watch it. And if you don't believe me, I know I'm not a paid shill from Paramount. And by the way, I'm not against getting money to shill for a studio. Please send me money. I need it. But I am not a paid shill for Paramount. I've seen the series twice all the way through, all 10 episodes. I guarantee you, if you are a Next Generation fan, 40 minutes into episode 1 of Picard season 3, or as I like to call it, the bunk bed scene. You're going to have a smile on your face, and you're going to be in. You're going to be locked in, and you will be rewarded because it is a hoot. So that Titan A model, it's funny because even producer Terry Metalis asked me, where did I get that picture of the Titan A that I tweeted? I'll never tell. I'll never tell. I did say that it was from the Titan A OnlyFans account. I think I'm actually going to set up an OnlyFans account just for the Titan A and just stick these pictures up that I have of it, because that would be hilarious, and that would be viral marketing that would get more attention than what they're already doing for Star Trek Picard season 3, which is very little. Anyway, so there you go. I appreciate that. Let's see. Wow, people are here. We just got a bunch of new super chats. Marcus Bisma says the latest video games now come in an empty box. Dieter, I was going to ask you about this. Obviously, you buy Steelbook extended or releases. How do you feel about buying a version of a video game that comes with a Steelbook with no disc inside?
That is not the way to go. As you said, try to buy Steelbooks with the art books combined.
One way you went out of sync all of a sudden. Hang on.
What the hell is going on?
I don't know, but I'm gonna disconnect you and bring you back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Hang on. Before I do that, before I disconnect you, I'm gonna go to you, Jeff. How do you feel about video games coming in steelbooks and not having no disc inside?
Yeah, so I've actually seen this with a couple of movies too. They tried doing this, and so the video game. So we're talking about like you buy a steelbook and it just has the digital code paper inside, no disc, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of owning something physical, because you're now you're just buying the package, but again, you're loading a game onto a cloud, and if they decide to take it down, you can't play it, but you have the case for it. Like it doesn't make much sense. But yeah, they tried this for movies, because I know, oh boy, 3-4 years ago, they tried doing mini steelbooks, and they sent me them, and I was like, I don't know what the hell you guys want me to do with these. It was for Hobbs and Shaw. And it was like this mini steelbook. It was like this big, just this little square thing. And inside was just a digital code. And they were like trying to make this a thing, I guess. And I just thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever been sent. Like, why do I want this little case that has a code in it? And what am I supposed to do with this? I'm not going to display it or any. So yeah, I don't get it. Like the whole point of buying something physical is to also have the physical content. So it doesn't make much sense to me.
No, I mean, I understand where they're going. I mean, Dieter, you buy more stuff than I do in terms of video. I've bought very few video games special editions, but you're a big fan of them.
Yeah, not to the extent, of course, as movies. And I was thinking, Rob, since the PlayStation 5 is getting more available these days.
Yeah.
If I would try to get just the digital version, I was thinking about it for a second, because it's a little bit cheaper, But then I thought, no, it has to come with the disc version. Not that I can play my disc, simply because if you can buy the game on disc, you have the opportunity in some countries to get it perhaps a little bit cheaper. But if you're only buying the digital version of the console, you have to buy the price they set up for the game. If you buy the game at a digital store, you can't choose, I buy this game in England or in Italy, get it a little bit cheaper. But if you got the digital version only, you have to pay the price that they are setting up for you, which is normally the retail price. If you want to play a game at the start of the release, you have to pay the digital price, which is almost the retail price. But the disc version you can get a little bit cheaper.
Right.
Here and there.
No, it's true.
So I had to say, no, not the digital version. It has to come with the drive.
No, I'm right there with you. That's
But
sad.
considering editions, I tried at least to go through editions that contain a little bit of an art book or be a steel book. But to have no discs inside, I don't understand why. But Rob, like I told you, we had a problem with the God of War set, where they put 2 codes in it, and it was 2 times the codes just for the download content, but not for the game. If they had put the disc in it, that would be probably would have solved the problem.
George the Giant Slayer, the great George the Giant Slayer, who's put out some incredible content about especially Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power. George the Giant Slayer says, all hail, Robert. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas weekend. Hey, it's still going on with Boxing Day with Jeff and Dieter here. Looking forward to all your 2023 film gems you're going to share and the rich history behind them. Wishing you a very happy new year. I was on a stream with George. We were talking about on Nerdrotic's channel, his second of 3 remembrances of the Lord of the Rings movies. And he asked me to come on because I'd worked on the special features, obviously, for the extended versions of Lord of the Rings. I spent years working on those with the team at Curdy Pellerin, and I still think an argument can be made that they're the best special features ever done. And by the way, I say this, I was part of a team of about 30 people. We spent a year on each one of those movies. So it was a great place to work. I love working there, and the likes of those special features will never be seen again. And by the way, shout out to a lot of the same team worked on The Hobbit. I didn't work on The Hobbit, but they were embedded with The Hobbit from the beginning. So The Hobbit has a lot more, if you haven't seen those special features, they're really, really, really good. Different from Lord of the Rings because we came there mostly after the fact, but The Hobbit, everybody was there at the time. So great stuff. Thanks for that, George. I appreciate it. Jordan Saylor says, I'm part of the Disney Movie Club for a few years now. How long do you think these video clubs will exist? Happy holidays. Jordan, I just realized one of the movies I most want in 4K of all time, one of my favorite movies ever, is Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And that movie would look incredible. It's only been released like The Black Hole on some bare bones movie club edition. Now, I'm happy to have them, and people that watch this show got me those discs, so thank you. But I don't know how long they're going to last. I think that that's just another way to marginalize physical media. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea had a giant Laserdisc box set. The fact that it was released as a bare bones Blu-ray, it's one of their premium titles. It's one of the great fantasy films of all time. I mean, James Mason, Kirk Douglas, Peter Lorre, come on. Let's bring that stuff to the forefront. I'd love to see that. What do you guys think? Movie clubs.
The club is still a thing on Disney?
Apparently it is.
Yep.
Okay. Didn't know that it's still going.
Well, I mean, I just look again. I want movies. I want movies in 4K. That movie would look absolutely and Walt Disney oversaw that film. I mean, if there's any live action, the 2 live action movies I want Mary Poppins in 4K, and I want 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 4K in Dolby Vision. Both of those movies are 2 of the most classic films of their eras in the 50s and 60s, and why don't we have them? I don't know.
Yeah, Disney is they're in such a strange place right now where they have such great history and they've just buried anything that isn't recent, isn't tip of the tongue that they can put on Disney Plus. It's like, because there's so many great live action movies that people just forget about that are out there.
I mean, even the Dexter Gordon's in Round Midnight. He's the sax player from Round Midnight. Dexter Riley, the Kurt Russell, the computer wore tennis shoes, the strongest man in the world. Those Dexter Riley movies with the young Kurt Russell, release those in a 4K box set.
Yeah.
I mean, put that stuff out. Disney drops the ball, and it's amazing. 2023, like Warner Brothers, it's their 100th anniversary. And I would think, like, there's so much stuff they've released, like those silver tinned DVD sets,
Yep.
that they did with like Tomorrowland and all the different, where are the silly symphonies in 4K? Why not restore all of it? I mean, I would love to get Lady and the Tramp with 4K Dolby Vision.
Yeah, I've seen some previews of stuff they're doing this year. It's not, they're just like you brought up the silver tins and it made me think they're like re-releasing a bunch of Best Buy steelbooks that look like the silver tins. They have that sort of packaging, but it's all stuff that's already been out before. Like that's sort of been this big, I think their 100th anniversary like celebration type thing, but it's boring. There's so much they could do. They have 100 years of history, and it's like I don't know why they ignore most of it.
Well, I mean, I worked on Tron, and I made a feature-length documentary on Tron, and it's like, where's that 4K?
Yeah, that should be a no-brainer.
And release Tron and Tron Legacy is a big box set. And look, seeing my own special features, Carrie David, Dave Parker, and I did the special features for Usual Suspects that were out of print for 20 years, and Kino Lorber put them on their 4K disc. And I saw a lot of people complain about that movie. That movie's made for $5 million. That transfer that Tom Siegel supervised, it looks fantastic. I've never seen that movie look so good. And Kino Lorber, God bless. I mean, there's nothing on my top 10 from Kino Lorber, but Kino Lorber is a company that has really come out guns blazing, and they're getting transfers from other studios and putting them out. But like they're taking a Pelham 123 disc was great. I mean, Owen Roizman, who shot The Exorcist, the movie. I'd forgotten how many movies stole from that classic grungy 70s New York. The David Shire score, the Dolby Vision. I mean, no one's going to look at that movie and go, this disc is fantastic because it's grungy New York, but it looked great. It looked better than that movie's ever looked. Mm-hmm. And Kino Lorber's putting it out, and so we need to get more of that. Why Disney is not looking into their beautiful... Why isn't 20,000 Leagues in Dolby Vision on disc in 4K? Like, I guess because people think that it's such a great movie. It's a wonderful, wonderful film with incredible actors, and we're not getting it. And I don't like that. George the Giant Slayer comes back to say, all hail and Happy New Year to Jeff and Dieter. Thank you, Rob, for always having such amazing people on. Well, George, thank you. One day maybe you should be on. And, it's been another great year streaming with Dieter. And, Jeff, there's a lot of Jeff does a wonderful job on his own channel. Jeff, by the way, for the people at home that maybe might not know your channel, where can people find you on YouTube and social media?
Yeah, so everything you'll find me. If you search Films at Home, you will find me pretty much everywhere. It's the same tag. There's variations. I had to use underscores on Twitter and stuff like that. But if you search Films at Home, I'll come up. And each of the social media profiles, I've got TikTok, I've got Twitter, I've got Instagram, I've got a Facebook page, I've got a LinkedIn page. Anyway, I've got it all. So you can find me on there. And then YouTube. We just hit 100K in November, so that was a big milestone. That was exciting, and so
I want to bogart your audience. If you're here from Jeff's channel, subscribe to Dieter and I right below. But I also put a link in the description to Jeff's Twitter feed and his YouTube channel, and definitely watch it. He's somebody that we watch, so you should too.
Appreciate it.
A Science Beat says, I too want Contact and 2010: A Space Odyssey. Odyssey 2. Wish they continued the Arthur C. Clarke story arc. Hey, man, if somebody said to me with an unlimited amount of funds, what would you remake? I would remake 2010 and have the Chinese be the adversaries, and then I'd make 2061 and 3001. They could still do it. Come on, Amazon. Make that happen. Tonight, I'm watching the 4K of The Batman for the first with a glass of Disaronno. Now, I should say this. The Batman almost made my top 10 because that's an incredible 4K disc. That transfer is amazing. And I really like the movie, but I wasn't as excited about it. I just kind of expected it to be good, and it was exactly what I expected. So, but I like the Batman. Did you guys like the Batman?
Of course.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I loved it.
Movie.
And it did make my top 10 4K, purely like audio visual. It made
it's amazing. I should say,
especially if you go and watch that on HBO Max or something and you stream it, it's so dark. It's just not going to be. It's not going to be right. It's one of those that you really should watch on a disc if you want to get
totally
it right.
agree. And the disc is beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to the lovely Emma Bannon, it's a disc like Dune that I have the box set with the steelbook and swag and everything. Krampus Jeebus says you pronounced Jekyll wrong. Did I? Dr.
What?
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
What?
Maybe I did. I don't know. Did I, Krampus? I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe
That's
I
the only
did.
way I've ever heard it.
Dr. Jekyll. I thought it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I might have pronounced it wrong.
Me too.
Yorgi says, Rob, forget the Zodiac Zavi steelbook. Check out the South Korean edition with a slip cover. Ooh, but is that 4K and is it the director's cut? Because I had the Japanese director's cut on Blu-ray, and that disc has mysteriously vanished. And I don't know where it went. So
It's like the Zodiac Killer.
So a V says, Rob, I just wondered if you have, by Blue Underground, 99 Women Behind Bars with No Men by Jess Franco, the 4K director's cut. V, I don't, but it was not on my radar. But just because you asked, I think every person who collects physical media needs a movie called 99 Women Behind Bars with No Men. I can only imagine the kind of sticky situations they get up to in that movie. And because it's Jess Franco, count me in, brother. I will order that. I didn't know it was out. God bless Bill Lustig and Blue Underground. Hartford became a member of the channel. Thank you, Hartford. Yorgi says, I bought Fablemans on Apple TV. It's not available here in German-speaking countries, but I also have a U.S. account. Where's the horizon? And you know what, Rob? In the last shot of Dune, the horizon is in the center. That is a reference to what John Ford tells young Steven Spielberg. John Ford in The Fablemans is played by David Lynch. I love that. The last shot of Dune, the horizon is in the center. Mista47 says, I just want Friday in 4K. Friday, the Great Friday from 1995. I would love to see that. That'd be great. That'd be fun. The whole Friday saga. Let's get it in 4K. Why don't we have it? Mikey Lito, the great Mikey Lito, says, missing from Costa Gravis, pardon me. Try and find it. That's a Universal movie. It came out, I know, on VHS. It's hard to find. That's another movie that should come out. Jordan Saylor says, I need the 4K of Pump Up the Volume. Love that movie. I think Warner Archive put out Pump Up the Volume. I think I have it.
Exactly.
Kristen Slater, it's great. Alan Moyle directed that, which is great. And I love that film. Yorgi says, the Dreyfus movie from Roman Polanski is available on Blu-ray here in Austria. It's a German BD disc. The title is intriguing. I watched it on Prime Video. I don't believe it has been subtitled in English. I've looked, unless that might have changed. I really want to see it. Cam's Crash Course became a member of the channel. Thank you for that, Cam. We got a few more to read. Thomas Logan sends in a $20 tip and says, hey guys, I love 4K. Oh, this is a good one. However, Ryan Johnson's Knives Out DP, Steve Yedlin, via Twitter, says the 4K format is nonsense. He claims that HDR10 doesn't work and Dolby Vision isn't any better. He calls 4K a sales gimmick that entices people dishonestly. What are your thoughts on this?
Boy.
Well, since I'm the only one here who's still rocking the full HD only, so I'm good with the statement.
What do you think, Jeff? And by the way, I just want to say that Steve Yedlin has done some really interesting YouTube work and done a lot of explanations about shooting digitally. So I want to say that he is a genius in his field, and he does understand what he's talking about in terms of cinematography. Before you answer, I would like to say I think he's wrong about this, though.
Yeah, I can see you could probably make an argument for some newer movies that are shot digitally and they're pretty clean. Like maybe maybe, you get a Blu-ray. Does the HDR and the 4K do that much more? It depends on the movie. Like, I can see where he's coming from, and if you're streaming, but like I that's got to be a personal preference thing by him, possibly.
I mean, he is a master when it comes to shooting digitally.
Yeah, so I mean, if he doesn't personally like the way that changes the look, then that's fine. But you can't make the argument going through all this stuff that we've looked at, especially for restorations of older movies, that 4K is nonsense. I mean, if he wants to argue that for what he's doing digitally in 2022 that it doesn't make sense to him, that's one thing. But I don't know how you can argue against some of these movies like Casablanca and older stuff that's come to 4K. I mean, it's a revelation a lot of times, even True Romance and movies that had horrible Blu-rays. Like, I couldn't make that argument for anything that wasn't brand new. I could see where some people might buy a Marvel movie on Blu-ray and be fine, and HDR is a little gimmicky on those in some cases, fine, but not for anything that was shot on film, at least.
No, I mean, as a post-production supervisor myself, I mean, for instance, there's pixels. I mean, something that's mastered in 4K. So a widescreen 2K transfer, and we're still getting a lot of 2K transfers. Mm-hmm. If you go by, which is 239:1, the official spec on it would be 2048 by 858 pixels, and that's what a 2K widescreen restoration is. A 4K wide, and I'm talking widescreen, not full 16:9, but a widescreen, so it's still letterboxed. But the image is still mastered. A 4K widescreen image is mastered at 4096 by 1716 pixels. There's just more information there. You can't say that 4K is a gimmick because, that's what, I mean, maybe the technical spec, but you can see it. It's all right there. And the thing about the difference between HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and Dolby Vision is that it's the metadata. So when you're watching something that's HDR10, the metadata is locked in. It's not changing. You get what the metadata is. But when you watch something like Dolby Vision, from scene to scene, the metadata is changing, and the whether it's the nits or whether it's the color, or it's changing scene by scene based on what Dolby Vision is giving you. And I don't think it's fair for him to say that it's a gimmick and it doesn't work. I mean, HDR10, yeah, you're locked into however that transfer looks, but 10 Plus is different and Dolby Vision's different as well. I mean, I think he's being hyperbolic when he says that, because anybody who has a decent home theater can tell you that it. But again, I would say this: I'm not as educated in the spec that he's at. I would love to have a long conversation with him and have him, if this is the case, have him educate me. By the way, I would even say that Steve Yedlin, if you see this or anyone out there knows you, I would love for you to come on this show and explain what you mean by that. Love to have you. Gunther sends in a tip and says, there are reports that Captain America 4 will involve a geopolitical conflict over countries wanting to claim ownership of Tiamat Island from the Eternals. That's the Celestial that was coming out of the ocean. And I've also heard recently that Harrison Ford's the villain. Thunderbolt Ross is now President Ross, which means he's really President Jack Ryan, like he should have been in Air Force One, but that wasn't based on a Tom Clancy novel, so he's not. But still, I don't know, Gunther. I can't answer that, but it'll be interesting to see. Justin Toner, who's a longtime fan and friend of the channel, says, hi, guys. Not able to be in the chat today. I'm working, but I'm sending in a tip of support. Very excited for the news that one of my favorite childhood movies, Dragon Slayer, is finally come out in 4K in the spring with a new commentary track to boot. Well, normally, here you go, boys. There is, this is the new artwork, apparently. The Dragon Slayer is coming out in a slipcased steelbook edition, which is great because I can get rid of my Stinky Tuna disc, and I'm always happy when I can get rid of my Stinky Tuna versions of things that they ripped off the TV. But God bless Stinky Tuna. So, Justin, I'm into that. I can't wait. Justin also goes on to say, hi again. Thanks to Jeff for being on the show today. To chime in on the 4K wants of the future, give me Disney's The Black Hole in 4K. It's not cool. The only Blu-ray is a Disney Movie Club exclusive, which Rob and I have. Because I think, Justin, did you get that for me? And Stubble McShave says, what is the status of the non-Craig Bond movies coming to 4K? Also, I think Where Eagles Dare would look incredible in 4K. That's a great... Where Eagles Dare is an MGM title. I would love to see that. Clint Eastwood, Richard Burton. That's an incredible World War II movie. Once again, we beat up on Dieter's country in that movie, and I'd love to see more of it. So, yes, bring it on in 4K. And the non-Craig Bond films, gentlemen, it was 2022 is the 60th anniversary of the Bond film franchise, and we got one Bond music documentary, and we did get No Time to Die, which was also a pretty great 4K disc. Why not because now MGM Amazon owns MGM. Are we never going to get the Bond movies in 4K or what? Where's that box set? Again, how do people fall down on the job on this? You've got No Time to Die coming out. Why wasn't there 60th anniversary of James Bond? Here's another, for the 50th anniversary, I still have my great Bond box set for that. Where'd it go?
People are still buying those too. I saw people getting them as Chris. 10 years later, they're still being sold. So yeah, it's a great,
great set.
I don't know how they missed this stuff. Maybe they need people like us to work in on a marketing team and tell them, hey, just heads up, it's the 60th anniversary. You might want to think about doing something here.
Honestly, one of the things I would do is I would get rid of all the movie marketing that's being done now in every way, shape, and form is so old school. It's not done right. I'd fire everyone and start from scratch. I would swing the axe of David Zaslav like he's done at Warner Brothers and get rid of all of movie marketing and reimagine it from the top down, bottom up, whatever.
I like that. I'm a marketing guy, so I that's what I do in the day. So
yeah, I've told people that I've said movie marketing, it's like all these movies are failing. I said Babylon. Here's a movie about Hollywood history, about it's full of drugs and sex and debauchery. And I'm like, how do you not sell that movie to Gen Z? Why isn't it all over TikTok? Why isn't it all over Reels on Instagram or Facebook or whatever? Nobody knew they wanted. You have to convince people that they want to see this movie. And they're not. They need to reinvent how, and people are wondering, like, Amsterdam was not great, but, Anyway, gentlemen, we are caught up with all of these questions, and the question that I have for you, number 1 and 2, our top two of the year. Where are we at on this? Who's first? I don't know. Was I supposed to go first? You guys first?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Me?
Go first, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just flat out say, it comes as no surprise to anybody. My favorite movies of all time are The Godfather 1 and 2. And, this year, Coppola has quietly been doing with his own team of people some amazing restorations of his movies. Apocalypse Now, 3 different versions in 4K. Unbelievable. They're really doing, we are getting, we still don't have the conversation yet, but The Godfather obviously was, that's the GOAT, and, Jeff, I know you've got this set. Dieter, I don't know if you do, but
just the normal one, but not the special one.
Come on.
Yep.
Somebody did the I know Paramount put this out. This is restorations of The Godfather Part 2, The Godfather Part 3, and Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, which I have mixed feelings about. Because as they said once in the first season of Sopranos, The Godfather 3, it's just misunderstood. It's not as genius, but there's a lot to love. I love this box set. I love that it comes with artwork that they later used in the Steelbook, little art panels that I'm going to have framed one day. And it's, I love this. I love the transfers. I love the movies. So my number 2 is this Godfather set. Again, it comes with a book. I love how the films are in this book. And it's like, if you like The Godfather, you have this on your shelf. This is the kind of thing that you might find in Vito Corleone's office. It's probably a humidor with cigars in it or something, but something along these lines. They did such a wonderful job. The restorations of the films are great. It's not Top Gun, Maverick, or Dune, but it's where the Godfather saga goes to end its physical media life. And what a rousing swan song it is. So happy to have this. I've owned these movies. And the one thing I would absolutely love to one day get, they edited Godfather 1 and 2 into a chronological version called the Godfather Saga that has been released in various formats. It's never come out, I believe, in HD. I don't know if they can, because it was probably done for TV or whatever. Love to see that. But other than that, that's an anomaly. I wish it was a special feature here, but great to have this. This is my number 2. So, Jeff, over to you, sir. What is your number 2 release of the year?
Yeah, and I should quick shout out, but I did interview the guy who worked on that and leads the team over there at American Zoetrope. So I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to him.
No, I never have.
I should connect him with you, because it was a very, very interesting conversation.
He's amazing. They're doing amazing stuff. Did they talk about a movie called One from the Heart at all? Coppola's One from the Heart?
We talked about The Conversation a lot, because that's their next one.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we brought that up.
And they also did The Outsiders, which was great, and then Criterion released Rumblefish. But yeah. So
yeah, they're doing awesome stuff, and it speaks volumes to what you can do if you own the stuff, like own the
material. Yep.
Yeah.
And now, of course, we should say that one of the most exciting things happening right now is Coppola is making Megalopolis, a movie. I think he sold his vineyard in order to finance, and it might be the last thing he makes.
Yeah.
So what is your number 2, Jeff?
So number 2, this is one that I think should be on more people's radar in North America. I think it's very popular in the UK if you're of a certain age. But I loved this release, and it's actually a TV movie. So that's maybe why not a lot of people know about it.
Wow, this is bold. Look at that.
But I took Ghost Watch from MVD, because first, this was one of those things that I'd always heard about, and it was like the War of the Worlds radio broadcast in the US. It was that equivalent in the UK. People flipped out. They thought it was real. It's one of the best examples of like found footage that exists, and it's this TV movie that came out, 10 years after we're talking video nasties, and they didn't want to show anything like this in the UK.
Right. Wow, so that is a MVD, beautiful. Where'd that come from?
This is MVD Entertainment and 101 Films, and so it looks like an Arrow video. I mean, if you pop it open, it's got the nice artwork here. It's got the clear case. It has 1, 2, 3. It's got different special features, I think 4 or 5. It has a documentary. It has commentaries. But then what it also comes with, which is very cool, is it comes with the entire script here in this booklet from the TV special, with like notes from the director of the TV special throughout. So it's the entire script. It has also like a little Arrow video style booklet here with a couple of essays and different things like about the movie, the TV movie, which is very cool, really cool artwork. And then it has some art cards. So it's this huge set that I don't think people even realize maybe came out in a lot of ways, because I feel like it was sort of under promoted. But if you like horror movies, found footage, I mean, I heard they got the rights to it, and I got very excited, and I expected, bare bones, we'll get it out there. I mean, it's stacked full of stuff. It's got the movie, it's got booklets, scripts, and it's got everything you'd want. So I know it's a big deal in the UK because it was shown on BBC, but I think it's one that a lot of people should check out if you're into horror.
Now let me ask you this: I'm looking at their site right now. Is it only $30, or is there a different version of it?
No. So as far as I know, it was surprisingly cheap considering what you get from this set. So that sounds right. I think it may have even been cheaper on Amazon in the past.
Wow, because $30 for that. Bro, I didn't even know about that. That's one I'm on the horn right now ordering that stuff.
Amazon looks like it has the collector's edition for $19.99 right now, Prime shipping.
Wow, you mean domestically?
Yep. So yeah, very underrated release that I wanted to bring some attention to because it is super cool that this even came out. And no, like your video quality, like you have to let's understand that this was a TV movie,
Right, and it was probably shot on like the BBC would shoot things. They'd go outside and shoot in 16 millimeter, and then everything else was video.
And you've got handheld cameras. You've got a lot of lo-fi sort of. It's not going to be a home theater stunner, but it's a very, very cool release, and it was awesome to see them put this much effort into it. So I wanted to shout them out, and I had it very high on my list because it honestly surprised me. And for the price, I don't know that there's like a better collector's edition out there for that price point.
Wow, what a great pick.
So the aspect ratio is 4:3 then for that movie.
Yeah, it's 133 to 1. Yep, it's very much, it's got an old TV movie feel. There's not much they could have done to clean this up and make it look any better, but it's found footage from the early 90s. I mean, that adds to the scare factor. I posted a quick like YouTube short about this when I got it, and there were people in the comments like, "Oh my god, this freaked me out when I was a kid. This was the scariest thing I'd seen on TV." It's got a great reputation in the UK, so I'm happy it got a North American release and is available for more people.
Nice.
By the way, Yorgi says, Rob, you're right. The Dreyfus Affair movie that Polanski directed is without English subtitles. I forget you don't speak German. Sprachen Sie Deutsch? No, me.
There you go, Rob. There you go.
So, Dieter, what is your number 2?
I've got a tie, but with the same movie. I like when movies get let's say a re-release because they were out of print for the longest time, and this one was nice to get. Even one of my Let's Get Physical media contacts, Russell, did get me a copy back in the day when it wasn't out, but now it's still available, and I've got it 2 times. So if you're not Region B, have a Region B player, you can go with the Vinegar Syndrome for Righting Wrongs with Yoon Bew and Cynthia Rothrock, which was a great release.
Only you would make a Cynthia Rothrock movie your second pick.
Of course, Rob.
Number 2 title.
Out of print for the longest time. Godfather, you can get Blu-rays and all the stuff, but this was out of print for a long time, but now we got it. But if you have multi-region free, I would go even with the 88 films release one of Righting Wrongs, because you get the movie on a second disc, because there are different endings for that movie, and you can choose your ending, or you can play it on random, and you don't know what ending of the movie you will get with this release, which came with a huge book, and of course art cards, different cover variation. So if you possible to play Code B, I would go with the UK one from 88 films, but the Vinegar Syndrome is great too. But it's just Blu-ray. It's not 4K. My number 2, Righting Wrongs.
Well, gentlemen, I mean that brings us to the end. Number one. I think we should defer to our guest, Jeff, from Films at Home.
All right.
Your number one release of the year.
This one, this one has shown up before on this list, to be fair, but it was my number 1 pick, and I didn't want to change it because I loved it so much. But it is the Second Sight release of The Witch. First, I mean, everything that comes with this, of course, the packaging, all the extras inside, it's a beautiful release, but the transfer was a big deal for me because the previous 4K releases, Robert Eggers, the director, didn't have any involvement with.
Right.
And he didn't like the way it looked, apparently. And it was very cool to see that. I don't know who gave him the go-ahead or what they worked out, but he basically went back and said, we need to recolor grade this whole thing for HDR. It needs to look different. It needs to look better. And that's what he did here. So it's a big improvement in that way. It's actually director supervised. But I'm a New England guy. Robert Eggers actually grew up, I think, about 30 minutes from where I live now in New Hampshire. So I love anything New England folklore. New England is a very creepy place with a lot of history of it. We've got witch hunts, we've got vampire hunts. People don't even know that that's a thing that happened here. I just love the movie itself too. So to get that version of it and have it director supervised with the transfer and all the goodies that come with that release, it was just my favorite all year. It's a beautiful movie. I love it. I watch it multiple times. And that's anytime I go to walk in the woods in New England, that's what I think of. So it's very near and dear to me.
I'm a huge fan of The Witch. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a movie, a recent film that evoked atmosphere and just, like you said, the chilling creepiness really well done. And I'm a huge fan of The Lighthouse as well. And even The Northman, I talked about on another stream about how does a movie like that not have the kind, that's a movie that needed better marketing.
Yes.
It was an expensive film that was beautifully made.
And a great 4K disc.
And a great 4K disc, and they needed... anyway. Well, Dieter, before I show mine, I will defer to you, sir.
Exactly.
What's up?
Rob mentioned the title. Luckily, he didn't show it. And since I am from Germany, finally I can put a German release on number one, of course, Turbines, the Frightener set that came out this year with the movie in 4K as the director's cut, as the theatrical version, and the director's cut with open matte, with a little bit of new special features, and of course a lot of swag. I showed it on the episode, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, so it's already still fresh. You can get it with 2 different cover variation, and the digipack inside will have the other cover. So mine has the original artwork on the digi. You get the original artwork here. You get this one on the digi. So for me, this was the release of the year with Dolby Atmos track 2. So the Frighteners from Turbine is my number one. So Rob, take the show home with your number one.
Well, gentlemen, I have to say that I wouldn't have this without you, Dieter. You know, a disc that you got me, but you didn't get for yourself. And
actually, I didn't, Rob.
I understand. I understand.
I know what you will show.
A lot of people, you know, this might be a controversial, but I picked this because, one, it's an incredible 4K transfer. It's been released by other companies like Arrow. But this transfer and this presentation is, again, one of my favorite home video releases of all time. And it comes to us from David Lynch. And here it is from Coke from Germany, the 4K of David Lynch's Dune in a lucite plastic box. Now, this is a deeply flawed movie that I saw. That actually, I should open it up. But this presentation, how you slide out the box. I mean, this whole thing. And look at this. You've got of course, the card, A Place Beyond Your Dreams, a movie beyond your imagination. I can't. There's so much stuff in here. It's hard to even take out. But there's not as much stuff as you would think. But there are books. There's a comic book, the Bill Sienkiewicz Marvel comic. There is a whole. I mean, this book is a huge book with. I mean, this is like a book you'd spend $19.95 for. You know, you'd buy that. You get the comic. There are posters in here, and of the new artwork. I mean, and these are like, you know, 1-sheet size posters. What are they? Let's open them up and see. The Wusten Planet, you know, I mean, the Wusten Planet, which is cool. The Desert Planet, of course. Now, as Dieter will tell everybody, Germans like their titles. They don't like they want to know what they're seeing. So of course,
the title,
the Desert Planet, and then of course, you've got the movie here. Now, there's what's really interesting is they also included a fan cut, what's called the Spice Diver, a fan cut that had been on YouTube that takes footage from the Japanese Laserdisc and various presentations of the movie and does the definitive fan cut. So you've got the 4K and the Blu-ray of the theatrical, which is fine. Then you have the bonus material disc, which is also very extensive. It's got all kinds of stuff on here.
Well, wasn't that a documentary that was missing from the Arrow, Rob?
The documentary that Daniel Griffiths did at Ballyhoo Films that was not on the Arrow documentary because he wouldn't finish it in time is on this, a feature-length documentary about the making of the movie. And then you also have the alternative, the Spice Diver version of the movie, which again, you know,
is it a better version, Rob, of the movie?
I honestly think it is, just because it has more of the story, and then of course the soundtrack album done by Brian Eno and Toto. So, I mean, for me, look, is this movie great? No. And even David Lynch, who's talking about revisiting the film again, I think that they should let him. But in terms of, like, I have no idea how economically feasible putting this out for Coke was. I have no clue. I don't know what it costs.
But they are sold out, Rob, at least.
Yeah, and I really don't understand the economics behind any of your German releases. How did Turbine afford to do the Frighteners release? How much did that cost? How much could they have possibly made doing it? I don't know. And this, I mean, look at this. This thing comes in a lucite plastic. Hang on, if I can slide it in here.
They probably thought, Rob, Dieter has to buy 5 or 6 of these.
Yeah, Dieter, how many did you buy for us? I mean, and look at this. Just to have this, even if I never open this again, this is crazy. This is the most insane packaging I've ever seen for a physical. I mean, you know, not since Criterion put out their big Laserdisc releases or something, but even then, they didn't, like, they made this into an art piece. And this is heavy. You could actually work out with this a little bit.
Yeah. And I still have to send you the screws for the extra poster.
Oh yeah, and yes, it came with, if you bought it. The extra poster. Yes, the metal thing they sent.
The alloy,
because it was late. It was your thank you poster for it being late.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
So, well, there we go. I mean, my God, gentlemen, we're almost up to 3 hours. I'm sure that Omar 97's guy, like, this is one of the longest shows we've ever done. Now we don't have to be done, but I so now that we have our list of top 10, I don't want to keep Jeff from Films at Home here because I want him to come back, you know. But if we do our shenanigans,
Rob, I would say we do the super chats, what's left, and then we go with Jeff into the off.
Yeah, because Jeff will keep me here for another 2 hours, and he doesn't want to be here for another 2 hours. He's 3 hours ahead of me.
I've got. I actually. There's a funny story is that I have to go do Christmas because we never did Christmas morning with my son because the power was out.
Oh my God! Well, we got to let you go. Go.
I'm okay for a few minutes, but that's what I'm doing tonight when he wakes up.
We're gonna let you, and then we go together.
All right. By the way, how old's your son?
So. He'll be 16 months next week, so he doesn't know any better that we lost power. And it didn't happen, but so we literally just came down, and that's when my wife ran by to wrap gifts so that we could give him.
Wow.
Last minute.
16 months is amazing. He's going to have, you're a good father. You're going to bring him up right with physical media, and he'll know what the quality is, which is amazing. Tom Jr.
Run through the chats. We can do that.
Yeah, there's just a few more. Tom Jr. Jackson says, great show today, and I subbed to Jeff's channel as well. You should. Jeff, one more time on YouTube, where can people subscribe to you?
Yep, it just Films at Home. That's the channel name. I'm there on YouTube. You can find me on all the social platforms too. So that's a good way to always come and say hi. I try to respond to every DM and stuff that I get. It's not gonna happen right away, but I do try to get to them all. So if you want to say hi or shoot a tweet at me or whatever, I'm there.
That's good. Thomas Logan, I'm glad and everybody should subscribe. How often do you put out content on a regular basis? Do you try and do it once or twice a week, or?
Yeah, it's usually at a minimum. I usually have 2 videos a week. I try to do 3, and then I'm in the middle of I do like podcast seasons. So when I'm in the middle of a podcast season, which I am right now, you'll get a new podcast, which is video recorded and audio every Friday. So
nice.
Those have been dropping every Friday for the last few weeks.
Very cool. Very cool. We have 2 more super chats. Thomas Logan says, my number 1 4K release of 2022 is David Cronenberg's Videodrome. Ooh, you mean this? Amazing release.
Honorable mention, Rob. Your honorable mention.
Amazing release by Arrow. I got the limited edition original key art. That's what I got too. The Drive box set by Second Sight was a close number 2, but Videodrome wins. You know, I didn't say anything about Arrow. I love Arrow. The Scarlet box set of Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3 is one of my favorite box sets. It's because it's awesome. But this Videodrome release, it's great. Like all the Arrow releases. I mean, Arrow is killing it, putting out things like, whether it was Tremors, you know, they put out Dune this year too. The great company, Arrow, shout out to Arrow. We all love Arrow. You've been in the business for a long time, and they never disappoint. I've heard they might be doing Naked Lunch next, which I would love to get.
Wasn't there a card drop in one of the releases that we saw?
Yeah, there was.
A naked lunch on a postcard, something like that.
Yeah, and you know what I also love about Arrow is they do a really good job. You know, they give you they always give you multiple covers and reversible covers, and I really appreciate what they do. Now, Arrow is owned by Zavvi now. Zavvi purchased Arrow, so Zavvi is a place you can go and get your orders there. But they're killing it, and I had to get the original key art just because. You know, why not? So there you go. And the Alex Zorba says, great show again, boys. Great guest. Jeff, great work on your channel. Keep on telling us which 4K transfers suck.
You know, I said I wasn't going to do this year because I was like, I don't want to be so. I did the reviews and, you know, I gave bad reviews, but I don't want to like necessarily amplify that by doing like these ones suck end of the year roundup. I'd much rather talk about the best stuff. But so many people were like, no, do it. You have to tell us. So I'm gonna try to frame it in a way that is not so like, hey, these suck. More just like, these are disappointing. These are not the best. But you know, even Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, even though it sucks, it has some pros, like those deleted scenes that were added. So like there are things you can find with even the worst of the worst. But yeah. I'm going to do that soon. That one's going to come out soon. I'll do a most disappointing for different reasons, packaging or whatever it may be. But I try to keep it positive. You know, we all want this to grow. Just because a release sucks, I'd hate to have that become a marching order for a Paramount to say, oh, well, forget it. We're just not going to do this anymore because people said it sucked. So I try to give constructive criticism even when they do suck. And I talked to them at Paramount about those 2 releases, and they gave me a statement back. So, you know, well,
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, at least they responded.
Yeah, there was a constructive conversation, and some of it was like, hey, do you have motion smoothing on your TV? Because that's why it might suck. And I was like, come on, I review these discs. You think I have that on? But part of it was the
just asking.
I know, but yeah, it brings up constructive. But I hate to be too negative, but there are some that suck. But thank you anyway I appreciate the comment there.
And then this is an amazing. Victor Fontaine sends in $100 super chat.
Ooh.
And Victor Fontaine says, Rob, even with our many opposing viewpoints, we can always come together in our love of collecting physical media. After Mama Susan's cut, you should have enough left for a weekly pick. There you go. Be sure and share a little with Dieter. Merry belated Christmas and happy Hanukkah. Well, Victor, first of all, thank you so much for your generosity and tuning in. And here's the thing. You know what? I believe that great physical media is objectively great. I think that there are a few times where people get into arguments about transfers that suck. You know, if there's a great transfer, it's readily apparent it's great. You can put it up on Scopes. The Small Change channel would tell you, even though he changed he went to his name. Or Theo over at HDTV, you know, he'll tell you. Or we as fans will come on. We're a little, I think, less technically savvy. I mean, not technically savvy, but we don't focus in more on the technical specs usually. Mm-hmm. We're just fans. But still, I think a great transfer is a great transfer, and we can all agree. Yeah. What we want is great transfers, great presentations of the films themselves. Take away the packaging. It's all in support of great cinema as the greatest art form of the 20th century. And, you know, if we can get that right. Am I wrong, gents?
No. That's what it's all about.
You're on the money.
Well, I want to give a great shout out to Jeff from Films at Home. I want to thank him for being a great guest on our last show of 2022. We should see more of you around these parts. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Go and watch Jeff's Films at Home channel. And I love your new setup, Jeff.
Thank you.
I like seeing the depth there. It looks good lighting, and that's nice.
I'm working on it. Yep. I need to get a new webcam so this gets a little bit higher quality. We're gonna get that 4K webcam with some Amazon gift cards I got for Christmas.
There you go.
There, upgrade. But yeah, I appreciate it, and I thank you for having me on because I've been watching this stuff forever, and I appreciate the invite, and I definitely come back and do some more and talk physical media or just talk movies, talk whatever.
Well, I think we should do. You just gave me. I think we should do a separate show and do an all horror physical media show. What are some of our favorite horror discs to own? And
that's my game.
You've given me some Chase discs. I got to have that Martyrs disc. God damn it, as Vidita would say. Damn it! I need that disc. I've got to go get it.
Yep.
So, Jeff, we will let you go. And a profuse thanks for coming on. And you had a Merry Christmas with your son. You're going to have Christmas again on Boxing Day. So
Christmas 2.0.
That's amazing. Christmas 2.0. Happy New Year to you, sir. We will be watching, and we will see you hopefully soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. It was a good conversation, and hopefully some good picks that people can go out and chase and pick them up for your collection.
Yeah, me being one of them, chasing Martyrs. Damn it.
Well, I'm telling you, don't sleep on this Ghost Watch for $20 either.
Okay. No, I already clicked it. It's coming.
All right, there you go.
The thing is, I have that DVD.
Yeah.
That's another DVD that I didn't realize that they release it. It's funny because one of our longtime viewers wrote in about it and have asked if we'd seen it. I think he was talking about it last week. I don't know if it was on this show, but it's great. I didn't realize that had come out, so definitely have to own that.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you for being here. Happy New Year. Please give our very best to your wife, and of course, have a great second Christmas with your. Or no, was it be first Christmas with your son?
This is the second, but it's the first one that there's any sort of recognition of what this might be.
Oh, nice.
He was 3 months old last time, so that was
right.
We skated through that Christmas.
Well, sir, all the best to you.
Thank you. You guys too. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Good to have you.
All right. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Well, Dieter, that was so much fun having Jeff on the show. What a nice guy. And great picks, by the way.
That we have, I think, only 2 or 3 titles that we have some similar.
Yeah,
we have all different top 10s.
100%. It's funny because you reminded me during this show. I did buy the Shaw box set, this volume 2. I don't know where I put it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll show it next week.
I went through the Amazon ordering list, and then I got through the Vinegar Syndrome releases, and I thought, okay, this was this year, and like I said, Bell, I stumbled across this morning, and I thought, wait, this came out this year, and would be nice to put an anime in it too, And
Bell's. I mean, there was so much stuff. Yeah. I think anybody.
But you have to put it narrow to just 10.
I mean, it's coming down to the point where I think we should do. Obviously, Kino Lorber hasn't put out that many Blu-rays, or 4Ks. I mean, shout out to Kino Lorber because they're putting out a lot of stuff, and that release, obviously, as we talked about earlier. And again, this just dropped. They put it out on their social media that they are in fact putting out John Woo's Face Off. So we talked about that earlier. It's great. Go Kino Lorber for that. So Dieter, we've got letters. We've got all kind. We got letters. Do you want to keep going? Is it too late for you in Germany? I don't know.
It's not too late, Rob. But I'm not like you. I'm not the marathon man. Considering doing YouTube shows, the only thing that I would like to do, Rob, is just a live chat, just to get it out of the way, because I have a new live chat for the next show.
Yeah, and that way we can show, because I've got quite a haul to show.
I have, Rob, I had only the 10 titles. I have not put out anything that I've gotten this week, and probably the next week will be nothing coming in. It's always a
no worries. We'll just do live chat, but we did get a lot of letters. Do you not? You want to save letters till next week?
I would save it for next week, and I leave it up to you, Rob, if you want to do a show on New Year's Day, because I don't think there are much releases. I probably won't get much releases.
Yeah, no, I think we should take next week off. Yeah, and we'll start the new year on the 8th.
Then we come back with all the letters that we didn't get to.
I agree. So this will be our last show. This was an epic show
because I have the new live chat, so I don't forget, the context. Sometimes I did forget the context, what it was all about. Just quick here. Previously on Let's Get Physical Media last week, Tim Hens, I didn't watch Avatar 2 in 3D. The 2D was more than sufficient. Are you sure, Tim? Are you sure? Would have watched it in 3D if I were you. Troy Ulysses, I will not be watching Avatar 2, 3, or 20. I'm washing my hair. Okay? Troy Ulysses. Victor Fontaine, Rob, did you get around to watch Avatar a second time in the Dolby version?
Not yet. I'm doing that on Wednesday.
Not yet. Okay.
Wednesday.
But I hope you have watched some YouTube reviews about what I described, the different frame rates usage. Victor Fontaine, I have heard a few people say they didn't like the high frame rate bounding back and forth. It was distracting. Exactly, Victor, it was. Midnight's Edge, Tom was here. High frame rate sucks. It's unnatural. We see motion blur. Altmetall, I don't like HFR in The Hobbit. Me neither, Altmetall, but at least with The Hobbit, it was consistent. It was HFR all the way through. Not with the same with Avatar 2 when it's got switched back and forth. But I found some reviews that pointed out the different variations in showing the movie with IMAX and Dolby. So I hope Rob will find the time to watch it in Dolby, what his take will be, considering the HFR. Altmetall, I guess the dynamic use of HFR is problematic for the human eye. Not problematic, it's just it looks like soap, So, Joe Hemphill, they had the Ant-Man 3 trailer in 3D at the beginning of Avatar 2. Looked awesome. Of course, Joe, because there are conversions now these days that are just good, just great. If you give them time. Then, okay, this was a super chat. You drop. The Alex Sorber. Everything is a must-buy for Dieter. Not everything, Alex, but that kind of stuff that Rob wouldn't buy,
Hey, we have taste.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think we fit nicely together, Rob. So if we put our archives together, we still have no Danny Kaye movie, but we would have a little bit more fine trash, trash of the finest. Victor Fontaine, who sends the huge super chat. Once again, I align with Dieter's opinion. Like how he is always honest and objective about the movies, even when he buys the movie fully knowing it is trash. Okay.
But the thing is,
Danzig,
you know, can I just speak to that? We joke.
of course,
We joke.
Rob, of course.
But as someone
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
made a lot of independent movies and worked on a lot of movies that would be considered less than, say, Oscar worthy, I would say that even though we make fun of movies, all movies, I should come back on camera and say this, I love all film. There are movies that aren't very good, of course, but the effort that is put into cinema as an art form and the effort that is put, it is really hard to make a movie on any level.
Exactly.
And while we make fun of films and there's many different levels of filmmaking, really, it's usually dependent on money, although that's not the only thing because we've seen a lot of trash that was expensive. Movie making itself is an inherently difficult thing to do. And to set up individual shots that hang together as a story, whether it's expensive or not, shout out to all the filmmakers that have ever been and ever will be, because we love the art form and we're here to support it. So we might joke, but we still love our movies.
Exactly. Considering Avatar, The Way of Water, Danzig, 1997. So style over substance, Altmetall. Sometimes the style is the substance. Exactly. BCH, Mad Dog wasn't very good. A lot of work went into it, but not very good. Exactly, BCH. That was my take on the movie, unfortunately, too. Daniel Steenstem, I've heard that the new Carrie is not that bad. If you're talking about the remake with Chloe H. Moretz, I would go with you. I quite had a good time with the remake, but I don't know if you're talking about that one because it's not that new anymore.
Right.
Star Wars, or what was your take, Rob, on the remake with?
It was all right. I mean, here's my problem. I think it's the thing is, a movie like Carrie to me is kind of a seminal moment in horror history. It was the first Stephen King adaptation. It's Brian De Palma making it. I really liked the first Carrie, so it's difficult for me to watch a movie 40 years later and find any kind of value in it, because again, Carrie is a product of its time. And we're talking 1975, 76, you know, that era, and the idea of psychic girls and taking revenge and being bullied and all that, while those have never gone out of style, to me, watching Carrie, it was always a part of my childhood, literally a part of my childhood. I'll tell you, when I first saw Carrie, my parents first took me, the first time I ever went to Hawaii. My parents would go to Hawaii on vacation, and the first time I went to Hawaii was Christmas of 1975 to 1976. And I remember that, like, Carrie, I want to say Carrie was playing her, 76. I don't know why, but people were talking about it, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to go see it. And I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine, this kid I'd met. We had this like long 2-hour conversation about Carrie on the beach or something, talking about it's just, to me, in my life history, you know, being 8 years old and knowing about Carrie and not being able to see it, or it was just a big thing in my life. And then when somebody remakes it 40 years later, I'm like, why? You know, I get it. You can always retell a story, but the tropes and the things that Stephen King had pioneered in that story, even though he's doing things that were a pastiche of stuff that had happened before, I still think to myself, you know, why remake Carrie? It was from the 70s. And I get it. You can remake it and update it. But is it ever going to be better than what Brian De Palma did with his split screen and all that? I don't know. I don't know if remaking something, unless there's a real different spin to it. I mean, the book hasn't changed. And I think, you know, Stephen King's first novel, I don't know. It's not a bad remake. But to me, I'm like, it's the same thing. Like, I wanted to hate Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead. I didn't hate it. I liked it.
We all know that, Rob.
But, you know, it was fine. Chloe Grace Moretz. I will say this. I love her, and she always gives it her all, no matter what she's in. I think that one day when history is written, She's never ever delivered, even though when she's in remakes of something, she's never ever not delivered a performance. She always gives it her all, and I appreciate her for that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Rob, I haven't delved into her show on Amazon. Have you watched her show on Amazon?
No, The Peripheral, which is based on a book I read that I have right up here. I've not delved into it, but I'm going to. Maybe this week.
Yeah. Nice. Star Wars and Glow. Deed's knowledge is needed on the Campia. Can they please find an apartment for him in Cali? Well, Star Wars, I couldn't sell it as good as Rob does when he's always looking forward to every movie that is coming out. You know, I would have sometimes said, I don't care about the movie that you are putting out, a Funko Pops movie or anything like that. Okay.
A Funko Pops movie.
Paul Nolan. Watching one of the latest episodes of Slow Horses, there was a reference to Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS in it. There you go. Joe, Mission Impossible Fallout was released in 3D in theaters, this is correct. Until they release that on disc, I won't buy any of the others. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not out in 3D, but at least the 4K with the IMAX stuff was great. Eucalyptus. We want Banshees of Inisherin, Rob and Dieter version. Instead of cutting fingers off, Rob destroys his expensive hot toys every time the douchey douche talks to him. You know? Another. Perhaps the sequel.
Here's the thing.
Perhaps the sequel.
I will never in my life, Dieter, tire of being friends with you. There will never come a time,
I hope so,
when I would say, as a matter of fact, Tango Shalom is opening in Germany next summer. I'm coming to Saarbrücken, Deutschland. I'm going to get your mom hammered, and I'm going to make her tell me stories. I'm going to get your mom drunk and make her tell me stories of your childhood. Tell me what Dieter did in high school. It'll be in German, so I won't understand, so you won't be embarrassed.
Shit's probably, more stories back from the 4 days.
Well, that'd be good too. We're coming. We're going to do a lot, and we're going to find Martino Simoni. We're going to drive around Europe. You got to take a week off, and we're just going to broadcast and drive around Europe. We'll go to different places. We'll go shopping at weird stores in Berlin, like techno record stores. Find some vinyl techno. We're going to drive all over Europe.
And we probably have to go to Berlin, Rob.
Oh, no, we are going to Berlin. I've never been to Berlin. I got to come win. Wings of Desire? Come on, the character in this movie is Berlin. We got to go. I'm coming. There's nothing you can do to stop me.
Rob, which company put that movie out? Is that a new company?
Well, I want to say it's Curzon Films. This is a good question.
Oh, okay.
Hang on. You know what? As we talk, I'm going to find the company that put it out.
Yeah.
I want to say it's Curzon Films. Let me go to Amazon UK. But yeah. So wait.
It's not really a big label.
No. Let me see what the Wim Wenders box set is. So as I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it's all, and it's not movies and TV. I always forget to do that. Where is movies and TV? I don't know. So I'm looking at DVD and Blu-ray. I'm changing it, and the company, and it's still not giving me. What the hell, man? It's not giving me what I need.
Stinky tuna?
No, it's like, come on, man. Okay, here it is. Yeah, it's okay. The Wim Wenders box set, and here I will show a picture of it. So now it's pretty great. I did not order this because I have a lot. The thing is, what I want though, I really want Far Away So Close, but I don't. Because I only have that on DVD. But so here is as I grab this. This comes from, here's the Wim Wenders box set that the Wings of Desire is from. It's a really nice box set. It's got a lot of stuff in it, obviously. So here's what it says. It's the Wim Wenders. It's Curzon Films. And let me read. A career retrospective Blu-ray collection box. book set, 22 films, new 4K restorations, over 50 special features, collectible poster, and Polaroids. This authoritative 22-disc collection encompasses the 50-year career of award-winning filmmaker Wim Wenders, alongside his masterpieces Paris, Texas, and Wings of Desire. The collection features his electrifying debut, The Goalkeeper's Fear of the Penalty, his classic road movie trilogy, Alice in the Cities, Wrong Move, and Kings of the Road, the director's cut of Until the End of the World, which Criterion put out, and the acclaimed documentaries Buena Vista Social Club, Pina, and The Salt of the Earth. The collection also features a wealth of extras, an illustrated booklet, film posters, and 4 Polaroid images shot by the filmmaker. And for me, that is amazing. And in this is, in fact, Far Away So Close, which is the sequel to Wings of Desire. So again, that's a UK set.
The one you are searching for.
Well, no, I mean I have it, but I didn't buy that set. I did buy the Wings of Desire comes. It's out of that set. It came
out of this.
But it's like that set was expensive, and you know what?
Exactly.
Maybe I should just buy it. I don't know.
Wait for it to become a Schnäppchen.
Think I'll get a Schnäppchen? I don't know.
So, Altmetall in the live chat. Have you heard of the Korean movie Alienoid? Of course, Altmetall, I have. It's already pre-ordered. It comes out in the States, I think, still this year or at the beginning of next year. In Germany, it will come out a little bit later, but I think in 4K it will come out here. Alienoid. William Cody, what was the name of the Korean film that Dieter was just talking about? And Albmetall want to know that too, but they did find out in the live chat themselves, but I gladly show it again. The title was The Cursed, Dead Man's Prey, the supernatural action movie. Okay. Mr. 47, Alita Battle Angel physical media release is how it should be done, because it came with 3D Blu-ray, 4K, Blu-ray, and digital copies. So that is what we are hoping for. Avatar, The Way of Water would perhaps get 2 nice package, 4K, 3D, and the Blu-ray. William Cody, Clerk 3 disappointed me. Okay. Victor Fontaine, Rob Dieter, need a top 10 4K releases of the year for New Year's Day. Well, Victor, we did it today, even if it was more a favorite release of the year, but Jeff did a top 10 4K where it just focused more on the audiovisual aspect of those movies, and The Witch was his only one, he said, which was the same in both categories. Hot take, Rob. Kevin Rubio. Rob, if Warner Brothers is restoring the MGM films, improving them in both sound and picture quality, and distributing them through streaming or other so that people can see them, then they can claim them.
No, they can't, because they didn't make them. And the whole thing is that, are you then telling me that the whole history of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer becomes... Here's the thing. Like we said before, if you're a department store that is selling a product, you don't claim you created a Gucci handbag or an Yves Saint Laurent handbag. You're distributing them, you're selling them, sure. But you're not claiming that you made them. And I think that Warner Brothers, look, the MGM had a very, very rich history in part of American history and part of Hollywood history. And for Warner Brothers to claim those movies as part of their legacy. Now, I've had this conversation with John Campea too. He doesn't agree with me. And he's like, well, they acquired the movies. But MGM was a studio unto itself. And when those movies were made, MGM was a very vibrant force. What happened to MGM is really kind of sad in a way. Carved up and spit out. Yeah. I think that that MGM
movies is put on the shelf, put out later.
Yeah, that's MGM's legacy, making those movies. Louis B. Mayer is a huge force in Hollywood, and I understand that Warner Brothers, the same thing is happening. It'll be really interesting. Disney cannot claim that they made Star Wars or The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi or Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. They didn't own those movies. They didn't create those movies. They didn't make those movies. And it wasn't until, yes, Disney bought Lucasfilm.
They didn't even start at the MCU, Rob.
No, that is correct. Paramount. The MCU began at Paramount, and I think these are important distinctions to make because, they always say history is written by the victors. Well, there's also the real history, and I'd like to see that continued on. And I know I might have popped off a bit, but I agree with that. And that's only because, I don't know, I went to film school and learned about film history, but what can you do?
Yeah. Mr. 47th, considering Avatar, The Way of Water. Yeah, I've seen it twice. Frames per second was much more noticeable in Dolby 3D. Okay. BCH, Mission Impossible movies get good at 3. 2 is terrible. Come on, BCH. 2 was great. I had a great time back in the day in the theaters. And Scott Barkley said Mission Impossible 2 is the highest grossing movie of the year 2000 worldwide. Okay. So it wasn't a flop. Tim Hens said Santa only kills the ones who have been bad through the year. Well, Tim, considering Christmas Bloody Christmas, the Terminator Santa doesn't care if you're naughty or nice. Everyone comes on the chopping block with this kind of Santa. Shaw Holmes, seeing too many heads getting chopped off gets boring over time. Are you sure, Shaw? Are you sure? I didn't get bored. Like Judas Priest always says, some heads are gonna roll. And let me just see. And here, Rob, Andre, you guys should reach out to Films at Home for an interview. He's love it. Well, Andre, he was there. Jimmy the Gent. Films at Home is terrific. Because you already said it last week that we should invite Jeff Altmetal. I would like to see Jeff in the show. The Alex Sorba, Jeff would be good for sure. There you go. Jeff was here.
See what we can do. We here at Let's Get Physical Media, we want to make sure you get what you want. Because we do every week.
We try at least to give them what they want. Gary Benjo Sandwich Worthington, considering my tie last week, looks like the bank manager you get a loan from to buy that expensive box set from Kiss that I did show. Exactly. You can get a loan from me for that Kiss box set, but not for Funko Pops or something like that. Okay? Errol Flynn, what time are you guys coming back on YouTube next week? We were starting on normal time. And the last one, Video Hunter D. I like Generations. Video Hunter D. Me too. And Rob said it is a little bit of a Christmas movie.
It is, but you shouldn't like it.
Yeah, but I like it too.
I'm not going to tell people what they shouldn't like.
My mind about that. For me, like I said, it was the first real connection with the next generation. I didn't know about saucer section splitting up. I didn't know about holodeck. So for me, this was all so much fresh stuff in Generations that I didn't know about. And then I did go back to watch the next generation. So Rob, I'm running out of steam here.
Well, listen, why don't we end it here, Dietz?
Yeah. So thanks, Jeff, again, for being on the show and sharing his 10 favorite movies. We will, like Rob said, next week we'll take a day off. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, but Rob, we have some super chats, I would say. We should.
Let me see if and by the way, I have super chats from yesterday too that I'm going to go back and okay, we're good on tips. Let me see on super chats. Yes. So Victor Fontaine, the Nerdporeal life form says, "Hey Rob, I'm giving season 3 of Picard a chance. Thanks to you."
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. It's so funny that Star Trek is my favorite franchise over the years. As everyone knows, the great Star Trek hostage crisis has been happening since 2009. I can't stand modern Star Trek. I will say this, though. Star Trek Prodigy has become very interesting, but remember, everyone, animation isn't real. So animation doesn't count, even though they want to make it whatever. It's not that there isn't good work being done. I mean, Star Trek Lower Decks is a different thing. Star Trek Prodigy has been very interesting, and there's a lot of stuff in it that I do find it's not real, though. It's animated. I could not have the space battleship Yamato compete in Starship SmackDown until 2010 when it became live action. Then it became real. If something's live action, it's real. If it's not live action, it's not real. Animation isn't real. So I will say this. Modern Star Trek, have not dug it. Star Trek Picard Season 3 is like a next generation movie that you always wanted to see. It tickles that your fancy in that way. And I think you should all watch it. And by the way, as I tell people, give it 40 minutes. 40 minutes.
Okay,
that's all I ask. 40 minutes of the first episode. If you're not in, you're not in.
I will time it, Rob. I will time it.
Time it. Just get to the bunk bed scene. Kenny Crayley Jr. says, Rob, Merry Christmas to you for the upcoming Superman 5 film 4K collection in April 2023. Are you shocked Superman Returns may not be in the set? Well, it's not in the set. And I understand, let me just say, cancel culture, I understand the reasoning behind putting it or not putting in the set. I think it's stupid. I think it's ridiculous. And having worked on that and have my special features, I mean, I even offered up I could do a lot more special features. I have them. They were shot in HD, and they didn't want them in HD. And I would my 3-hour documentary, I would have up-res to HD, but whatever. So Kenny, yeah, it pisses me off. Hitchhiker 42 says, Rob, any updates on DS9 or Babylon 5 on Blu-ray? Well, Babylon 5 was upgraded to HD. Yeah. It was on HBO Max as far as I know. I don't know if it's still there. Deep Space Nine. No. I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of people talk about using AI and all that shit. Listen, the only way to redo something that was shot on film correctly is not to take a video resolution version of it and use AI to up-res it. You can't do it. You've got to go back in and go to the negative and scan the negative. And Star Trek The Next Generation, the 178 episodes, took 4 years of work and a team of 30 to do it right. And to do Deep Space Nine, it would take 4 years and $20 million. To do Voyager, it would take 4 years and probably more money, maybe 5 years, because all the effects, it would have to be remastered. So that's the only way to do it. No updates. I wish we could get those things. I really do. Yorgi says, Rob, Dieter, this is a good one to leave off on, Dieter. Here's how we leave 2022. Okay. This question. 7 or Silence of the Lambs, and why? Which one do you pick? 7 or Silence of the Lambs, and why?
That's a tough one. I pick 7 just because I like that trippy, rainy atmosphere of the movie. And I like, but this is tough. I pick 7. But why I couldn't put my finger on the pulse exactly why I would put it. But perhaps Silence of the Lambs I have seen more recently, considering that it did get some releases. But 7 I would like to see with a new release.
I have to say I'm a huge fan of Thomas Harris's novels. I read Red Dragon when it first came out. I read Silence of the Lambs when it first came out. I read Hannibal and Hannibal Rising when they first came out. But I would, as much as, I mean, Silence of the Lambs won Best Picture. Yeah. I think 7 is a better piece of cinema. I think that Silence of the Lambs is a great story. The compelling story of Clarice Starling and a relationship with Hannibal Lecter. And I love the performances and all that. But I think that 7 hits deeper. It's much more cinematic. And
exactly.
it does different things. 7 is a nightmare. 7 is a movie that gets under your skin, and ultimately, at the end of the day, I think is far more. It gets underneath your soul far more than Silence of the Lambs does. And as a matter of fact, in a way,
and I think the crime is a little bit more interesting to solve in 7.
Yes,
the 7 sins.
I agree. But also 7, I think 7 has a deeper. 7 goes to the depths of your very soul, whereas in a way, Silence of the Lambs has a romantic element to it. There's something vaguely romantic between, and not necessarily romantic between, boy-girl kind of a thing, but there's a mutual respect. There's 7 is dark and bleak, and it might be about the end of the world, whereas Silence of the Lambs has a bit of optimism in it. The world's a more interesting place with you in it, Clarice. I'm gonna let you live.
I go on my road trip. No.
Cut to Gwyneth Paltrow's head in a box. I mean, it really depends. I take 7 only because it's a true horror film, whereas Silence of the Lambs, horrific certainly, and it is a horror movie, but in a way, it's a relationship film, and I would go with that. So Yorgi, you got 2 7s from our place, and that Dieter, that brings us to the end, buddy.
Okay. So from my perspective,
not a lot of new stuff. Not a lot of new news, but we've talked about Dragon.
Only one thing, Rob, because we always start with that. Why don't we close with the box office?
Okay, all right. Let's see where we're at.
How is Avatar doing, Rob? Tell us.
Well, let's take a gander. Very interesting. Let me find out. There's a lot of interesting. I forget. Christmas delivers box office miracle for Avatar: The Way of Water. Despite winter weather, does James Cameron's pick second 4-day weekend have a shot at $100 million? Well, let's see. Here's what they say. Again, this comes from Anthony D'Alessandro, and he says, despite some parts of the country being under 43 inches of snow and some communities even having driving bans, Christmas delivered more money to Disney 20th Century Fox studio Avatar: The Way of Water than anticipated. Instead of hitting the studio's anticipated $21.5 million yesterday, the James Cameron directed sequel delivered $29.5 million, sending the Pix 3-day to $64 million, down 52%, with Disney raising its 4-day outlook to $90 million. That Christmas Day take is the 4th best ever for a movie behind Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and Spider-Man: No Way Home, and ahead of Star Wars: The Last Jedi and Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Rivals believe The Way of Water's second 4-day weekend can get to 97 to 100 million, with most people off from work today and all schools and colleges on break. Disney says 26 million today. Others believe it's 33 to 36 million. We'll see. Disney's projection for the 11-day domestic total of Avatar: The Way of Water is 287.7 million, which is 9.5% behind Rogue One over the same point in time, and it's 24% of Avatar's first 11 days. So, number 2 in America, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is looking at a $27 million 6-day gross. I Want to Dance with Somebody, the Whitney Houston biopic, might make $12 million. Babylon is projected at $5.3 million for its weekend, which isn't good for a $90 million movie, but it's going to open in 58 offshore markets starting in mid-January, so it could do okay.
Yeah, it's gotten a later start point here. Exactly.
Yeah, so maybe it'll do okay. Maybe it'll work out. So Black Panther: Wakanda Forever Past $800 million worldwide, and it has grossed $427 million in America. Violent Night, dude, $42.6 million. The Whale is up to $2.85 million, not much there. The Menu is at $34 million. The Fablemans is at $10 million. And Strange World is at $35.8 million. So there's the box office for the weekend here domestically.
Nice. So Avatar is chugging along.
It's chugging along. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's doing well. I mean, Avatar is probably going to pass. I think that worldwide, maybe it'll pass $1 billion this week.
Yeah, could be before the new year is arriving. So I wish everyone here now a happy new year already. And I say, jede Person, die du triffst, hat eine Geschichte zu erzählen, die du noch zu hören hast. Alles, was du tun musst, ist zuhören.
Every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. I want to give a shout out to our great moderators on this channel. I want to give a shout out to the great Tom Jr. Jackson and Lord Toth for being here and being great moderators. And I want to thank all the viewers and all the members of the channel. We will be having a membership chat next weekend. Oh, wait a minute. That might not be true. I have to check with Roberto Suarez. But if not, the weekend after. I think we're just going to skip, just to be easier, we'll skip member chats. It's New Year's Eve next Saturday.
Yeah.
So we'll just wait until the week after to do a member chat. But I want to thank everybody for continuing to tune in to this channel and supporting physical media when you can. I know this is a small show, but we chug along, and it's really great that we were able to get Jeff from Films at Home here. But I want to thank all of our viewers for watching and all the members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. It's great to have you here. And Omar94, this is easily probably our longest show, I would imagine. We're at 3.5 hours.
Could be.
Could be.
3.5 hours.
So thanks for everybody. I might be doing another observations later today. I've got a Designing Hollywood I have to get up, which, by the way, is with Deborah Scott, the costume designer for Avatar: The Way of Water.
Awesome.
I have to go buy, there's a few leaks in the roof of the observatory, so I have to go buy a tarp because we're going to have rain for the next 10 days or something.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So
the weather is going crazy all over the world.
I know. We don't it's not going to get cold here. I mean,
yeah,
but it is going to rain. And it looks like it's, Dieter, it's 77 degrees going on right now. So what can I tell you? 77
Still
here.
Nice
in Southern California. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm going to Home Depot and I'm going to get myself some tarps and take care of business.
Nice. So on that note, see you in the new year.
In the new year. We'll see you all in 2023. My God.